Sheldon's body had been hollowed out for a long time. Now, how can he stop these turned over bodyguards? As soon as he arrived, the life buoy in his hand was snatched back. These bodyguards didn't care about their identity at all. As long as they can get back to the shore alive, they will leave Sheldon as soon as possible. They will never serve the rich man anymore. From this point, Harry could see that Sheldon was a rich man, but his identity was no big deal. The subordinates didn't have any loyalty. They knew that they were not aristocrats. The guardian and bodyguards cultivated by big families were very reliable. They will never leave their masters to survive alone when they were in danger. It's like June. No matter how dangerous the situation is, people who want to hurt Harry couldn't do it unless they step onto her body first. Sheldon's life buoy was robbed and his bodyguards swarmed toward the shore without looking back. He was left, just like that, as an abandoned dog, with only one head out of the sea, shivering. Harry didn't care whether he was alive or dead. His goal had been achieved and the lesson was also given. He waved and signaled to take the team home. Wolfgard drove away all the yachts that Sheldon had just taken. There was not even a board left on the sea. Of course, they also took those young models that were on the ship. They have nothing to do with this matter, and Harry won't involve innocent people, so they can vent their anger casually. When he asked George to take these people back to the shore, and they casually sent them to go back to where they came from. But these young models look at Harry with different eyes. Before that, they thought Harry was an ordinary person. At most, he was very handsome and had a little flavor. Originally, these women are money first and beauty second. They would rather cry on a donkey than laugh on a bicycle. They were all powerful. But now Harry has changed from a frog to a prince. Even Sheldon, who had always been a bully, had been tidied up cleanly, so Harry had become a big opportunity in these people's eyes. Handsome guy, leave your contact information. I'm good at technology and I'm good at serving people. Look for me. I'm the one with the best technology, and they're very simple. Handsome guy, I'll leave my contact information. Oh, I'm a serious person. I'm very proficient in all 18 skills. I guarantee that I can get more value than the money you spend. Facing the seduction of these women, Harry was not moved at all. There are a lot of women in the world, in which some are better than these young models. Harry was having a headache now. He will play with them if he was full and had nothing to do. Besides, even if he wanted to play, don't the women at home smell good? How many times have people chewed through these wildflowers? Harry shook his head, ignored the enthusiasm of these women, and let June lead the sea. When such a big thing happened, they were not interested in fishing anymore. What's more, the golden emperor fish caught by Juniper was too big. Harry's boat had reached the upper limit of the load and can only return to Allen Island first. After returning to the manor, Harry pointed to the big fish and asked Juniper, "This was the result of your first sea fishing. Are you going to make it a specimen or are you going to eat it?" Juniper hesitated for a moment and said, "It seems that this fish was very valuable," Harry said with a smile. "It's true that it is valuable, and it can be regarded as a top food material. However, in my opinion, it's just like this, no matter how good it is." "Well, brother, I don't want to eat it or make it into a specimen. Can I keep it?" Harry touched Juniper's head and said, "Okay, good to keep it. I think it'll be easy to keep alive." Generally speaking, fish caught from the sea died soon after being caught. But the golden line emperor fish caught by Juniper has a strong vitality, and it was such a large size that the wound was not big when it was caught before, so it should be able to recover soon. In Harry's manor, there was a huge marine aquarium, which would have no trouble keeping the fish in. So Harry agreed to come down and order his men to put the big fish into the aquarium for good care. Although it's a top-level food, Harry didn't have the curiosity. He didn't have to taste any special food like others. Juniper didn't have this idea. As a child, her favorite food was cream cake ice cream and other sweets. She didn't care much about seafood. After returning to the manor, Harry changed his clothes. As soon as she got back to the living room, Juniper ran to report, "Brother, Teacher Holly called me and said that she might come later today." "Oh, what can we do for her?" Juniper shook her head and said, "Nothing. She has just finished the exam. There were other things to deal with in her school." Harry thought for a moment and said, "How about this? Let's meet Holly and take a stroll in Florida." The child couldn't stay idle. When she heard that Harry wanted to take her out to play, she immediately agreed. Harry's helicopter, Manson's crew, has returned to Florida, so they didn't take the narwhal this time. Compared with sailing, it's faster to take a helicopter. June flies a helicopter, and Harry takes Juniper and the three of them to Florida Hotel. After stopping the helicopter, Randy drives out the VTR Super Cross Country car from the garage that Harry uses alone. Three people then transfer the vehicle, drives toward the Florida Media Institute. Holly, used to be relatively low-key, has become a little famous person in school. It was because of the disturbance at the school gate when Harry sent June to meet her some time ago. As a result, the whole school knows that Holly has found a job as a tutor, and her monthly salary is incredible. And the person who hired her was this rich man, which was very inhumane. Every time they pick up Holly, it's either a top luxury car or a luxury helicopter. It makes the people in the school envious and ask Holly what kind of relationship she was looking for to get the job. All of them were thinking about whether Harry still needed a tutor. If they still need it, it's estimated that the people who want to apply for the job will burst the gate of Harry's manor. After Holly finished all the courses of the semester, she was left by the professor to help organize the papers. There were several classmates with her. Finishing up the arrangement, Holly receives a call from Juniper. "Teacher, my brother has brought me to meet you. We'll be near the school gate." Holly was startled. Harry actually came to meet her in person and immediately felt flattered. It can be said that the time when Holly stayed in Harry's manor was the happiest time in her life. The tutoring work for Juniper was not tiring. After all, it's just a primary school culture course. For Holly, it's simple as breathing. The other two musical instrument courses and painting courses were not troublesome. On the contrary, they were exactly what Holly was interested in. In her spare time after the course, Holly can stroll around Harry's manor. Holly was most happy when she was interested in finding a place with beautiful scenery, playing an instrument, or drawing a landscape painting on a drawing board. Not to mention in Harry's manor, in order to meet her teaching needs for Juniper, Harry directly bought a variety of top musical instruments. Those who like to play musical instruments most want to use top musical instruments. Unfortunately, the price of this top-level musical instrument is very top-level, which can easily reach millions or even tens of millions. Not to mention that ordinary people couldn't afford it. Even Holly, a little rich family, was out of reach. Holly was satisfied to be able to use these top musical instruments. She feels that there was no faster instrument in her life. I'm almost done. Please wait for me for a moment," Holly said. After hanging up the phone, a female classmate next to her was very gossipy and asked, "Hey, Holly, I heard someone came to pick you up. Who?" Holly said with a smile, "It's the employer who hired me to be a tutor. I have something to do today. The appointment is a little late. I didn't expect Mr. Parker to come here in person." "Why, Mr. Parker? It's a man? How does he look, handsome or not?" "Yeah, he's pretty good looking." What are you doing?" Holly blurts out, then blushes. Female students exclaimed, "You say you go to do tutoring. This thing in the school are crazy. It was said that the employer is a rich man, letting you go to his sister as a teacher." "Well," Holly answered softly and didn't want to talk about it in front of outsiders. But the female students still pestered and asked, "Is there a shortage of people over there? I heard that this kind of rich family was looking for a lot of teachers to ask for extracurricular guidance for their children. Can you recommend them to me? If I go, I'll owe you a very large dinner." Holly felt helpless. She didn't know how many times she refused this kind of request. These people don't think about it. She's just a little tutor. How can she influence Mr. Parker's thoughts? What's more, a lot of people were out of their ability. They have failed in the exam, and they want to teach others. They were not afraid of being driven out by others. Just thinking about how to politely refuse, Juniper called again. "Teacher, my brother and I have arrived at the gate of the school. Come out." "Okay, I'm just finishing up. Let's go." After that, Holly was very sorry and said to her classmates, "I'm sorry, I have to go there quickly. It doesn't matter if Mr. Parker asks for a tutor, but if there is a chance, I'll introduce you again." Then she packed up her things and went out. "Hey, Holly, don't hurry. Wait for me. Let me see Mr. Parker, too." This female classmate wanted to see for herself, so she followed. All the other students in the classroom heard her shouting. Knowing that Holly's rich employer came to pick up the tutor in person and now he was at the school gate, they were all scrambling to catch up. The purpose was to see Harry. At the gate of Florida Media College, as soon as Harry arrived, he received countless attention. In fact, it hadn't gone off yet. People at the school gate were all concerned about this super SUV. Its domineering appearance, huge body, great sense of technology. Just look at the car's face to see how much it's worth. Now, the end of the school term, it was time for the students to leave the campus one after another. A lot of vehicles to pick up people at the school gate have stopped. But after Harry's car came, no one dared to get close to it. They were scared to get out of the way. They were afraid that if they rubbed against it, that they would lose their property and they could not afford to pay for it. What makes people more concerned was that they were also here to pick up people. There were also some rich second-generation people who drive sports cars to pick up the girls they hook up with in school. At this time, as soon as Harry's car came, those soft sports cars immediately became the dregs that were ignored. The rich man drives sports cars to pick up people at the school gate in order to show off in front of girls. Maybe they can hook up with another one or two. But now it's all destroyed. Okay, if Harry didn't come, now who can watch the sports car? A good person took out his mobile phone and searched it on the internet. He was almost scared to sit on the ground. The price of the super off-road VTR was like $4 million. Coupled with the expensive decoration price, the direct price would be even more than that. Those other expensive sports cars were no match at all. The grade was so bad, Holly came to the school gate with light steps. Before she could look for Harry in her eyes, she was first attracted by the invincible car. With the sixth sense, Holly knows that this must be Harry's car. Sure enough, after seeing Holly, Harry pushes the door to get out of the car and waves to her. Is that the employer who hired Holly as a tutor? God, how young and handsome. Oh my God, the key is he has so much money and he actually came up to pick up Holly in person. If only they'd come and pick up me. Oh my God. How can he be so young and handsome? Holly's just tutoring him. I wonder when she's tutoring, she has a little spark of temptation. No, she's just a tutor. That's it. The little girl who just got out, too, must be Holly's student. Wow, this child is so cute. It's really like the daughter of a rich family. She's really a beautiful child. Brother and sister, so good looking. It's like they came out of a movie. Holly saw Harry get out of the car and she waved to him. Suddenly, she felt a little deer jump in her heart and quickly ran to him. Mr. Parker, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Holly was very surprised by Harry's arrival. After all, she was just an ordinary tutor. In the eyes of the students, the main reason was that she'd become so attractive was that her employer was also super rich person, Harry. Generally speaking, sure, rich people disdain to deal with the little people like them, but Harry thinks differently from ordinary people. Don't apologize, I just got here, Harry said with a smile. Holly's heart beats even harder. Somehow, every time he talks, she feels flustered. And the girls who followed her were even worse. After a smile appeared on Harry's face, the girls almost got weak legs. My God, his smile looks good. I couldn't do it anymore. I'm going to indulge in this handsome face. What kind of fresh meat is far worse than Holly's employer? Needless to say, the little fresh meat is all put on airs. This one is the real one with a lot of money. A group of people wanted to squeeze in and say hello to Harry. At this time, they don't have to face anything. They can leave a good impression in front of Harry. In case of great luck, they could also leave a contact information so that they were willing to lose 10 years of life. Seeing the scene a little out of control, Harry said, get in the car. We should go. Oh, good. Holly was stunned for a moment and then sat in the car. Harry's super SUV roared a few times and a group of people around him quickly got out of the way. What a handsome car. I wish I had such a car. No, you don't want to. Do you know how much this car cost? Even the money for a tire was something you couldn't even earn in your lifetime. Rich people are just cool. They can get everything they want. Watching Harry's car disappear, only a group of people at the school gate sighed that they didn't get a good tire. In the car, Juniper held Harry's arm intimately and asked, Brother, do you want to show me around Florida? Where are we going to play? Holly wondered. Not going back to the manor. Harry said with a smile, It's rare for me to come out. Anyway, there's nothing urgent to do. It's just a good stroll here. It's a distraction. It's boring to stay on the island all day. Holly said in her heart that Harry was qualified to say this. The island was his own. No matter how beautiful and luxurious, he must be used to it. But for those who don't often stay there, it's a fairyland. they couldn't be tired of staying there for as long as they wanted. As for going there to play this kind of thing, Harry thinks that the girls should go shopping. The only thing the island lacks is less fun going shopping. Now that they have a chance today, let them have a good time. He said, "Let's go to the shopping street in the center of the city. You could buy some new clothes." "It's nice to buy new clothes, brother." Juniper patted her little hand and said excitedly, "June and Holly, I don't think you usually wear many clothes. Today you could buy some more," Harry suggested again. Holly was surprised and said, "Me too?" "Yes, don't worry. I'll pay for everything today. You could buy as much as you like. You don't have to worry about money for me." No one was more confident than Harry. Some time ago, the flow of funds became a little tense. As a result, only a few days later, the net income of various industries' profits was transferred into his account again. Remove the funds to maintain the operation, Harry now has tens of billions of funds at his disposal. At this level, he didn't have to worry about making money at all. Lying in bed, countless money can flow into his account like running water. Now in Harry's industry, the largest Moon Island development project has entered the business state. Although not all the development has been completed, the initial open play projects have reached the balance of revenue and expenditure. The only one he was still investing money in was Manson's film crew, but it's basically at the end of the period, so it didn't need to invest too much. However, after the release, it depends on the market situation whether it will make money or lose money. In addition to these two industries, other industries only earn money but not lose money. It was said that the daily income is poor. Hearing that Harry asked him to go buy clothes and pay for them, Ollie hesitated and said, This is not good." Harry waved his hand and said, "What's good? I'm not short of money. Today, your task is to take it from me and spend it for me. Do you know?" "I understand," Juniper saluted. Harry, the elder brother, is rich. She realized it for a long time. Because she was very close to Harry, she thinks it's no big deal to spend some money. June, as the stand guard of Harry, obeys Harry's orders in everything, so she has no opinion and nods her head and agrees. Only Holly felt that she was an outsider after all. Harry paid her a lot of money. It was not appropriate to spend his money again, but looking at Harry's refusal, Holly had to listen. 4 people all the way to Florida, shopping streets. There was no cars to pass. They found an underground parking lot to put the car. In addition to the luxury shops on both sides of the pedestrian shopping street, there were many snacks on both sides of the road. Juniper hasn't been on such a busy place for a long time. When she got to the street, she ran happily. "Brother, I want to eat the colorful marshmallows." "Brother, I'm going to eat the roast corn." "The sticky tofu smells so bad, but I heard it's delicious." "Brother, can I try it?" All the way, Harry nodded and said yes. These roadside snack stalls were not expensive food, although the price and ingredients are very low, but the civilian food also has a unique taste. It's not only Juniper who enjoys eating them with relish, but also Harry who has bought more points. Everyone has them in their hands. They were eating while shopping, enjoying the leisurely time. "Don't patronize. There are so many shops on both sides of the road. If there's anything you want to buy, let's go in and have a look," Harry suggested. "Brother, I want to buy a skirt," Juniper said first. "June and Holly, do you have any stores you want to go to?" Harry asked again. June hesitated. "I don't have anything special to buy. It doesn't matter what I wear." Holly also said, "In fact, I have a lot of clothes. There's no need to buy any more." Harry said with a smile, "Do women still have too many clothes? Don't mention it. Let's go to the shop ahead." The shop selected by Harry was a luxury shop. The interior decoration was high-end and elegant. You could see that the goods sold here were expensive. Generally speaking, this kind of luxurious facade was not affordable for most people as long as they see it. So they won't get close to it. They don't even have the idea to enter the store. The salesmen in the luxury goods store, named Paradise, have long been used to the often desolate state of the store. Generally speaking, top luxury stores like these don't open very often, but the performance of the one opening can match the income of ordinary stores for several months. Therefore, looking at the bustling street, even if there was no customer in the store, the salesperson was not in a hurry. Although there were many people outside, they were still useless. This was not a place where ordinary people can come consume. Only the rich were the real customers. But today, there was an exception. The saleswoman saw a man with 2 girls and a child shopping outside. In the beginning, she was envious of the appearance of these 4 people, and as a woman, She was most concerned about Harry's handsomeness. But looking at it, she found that 4 people came into their shop. It was said that working in this kind of luxury goods store for a long time has basically made a pair of eyes. Is it true that the rich can get accurate results at a glance? Harry's 4 people were very beautiful and well dressed. No one will regard them as poor people. After all, this society was not about money, but also about face. But at this time, the squid string in each person's hand was a little reduced. The saleswomen in Paradise feel that they were not rich people, but they were not. Because generally speaking, the customers who can come to their shop for consumption have their own identities, and no one will eat this kind of unhygienic stall snacks on the street. So when Harry, 4 people with squid string into the store, here a few salesmen secretly frowned. Now that they want to come, Harry was very young and looks like they were all students. They were just browsing there. They didn't know if they were going to buy anything at the Paradise store, and they didn't know if it was a top luxury store. After several salesmen looked at each other for a while, the store manager here could only stand up and speak. Harry's handsome appearance made the store manager more polite. Ah, this gentleman, are you here for the luxury goods store Paradise? You come to our store especially for shopping? Harry looked around and said, "It's not special, it's just casual. If you see something suitable, you can buy it." Because Harry didn't hear the words clearly, the store manager said directly, "Sir, the goods in our store are very expensive luxury goods. So for the sake of our insurance, this kind of food will, with the grease and particular smell, was not allowed to be brought in. Please understand." In the end, the employees trained by luxury stores and top luxury brands were of high quality. Even if they didn't welcome Harry, they were still very polite. Harry didn't feel at ease. Even if it's not a luxury store, the general clothing store didn't like the customers who come in with these things, or it's very easy to stain. So Harry nodded. "Understand, then I'll be at the door. Anyway, they want to buy it." Then he took the squid string in June's hand and stood at the door eating. "You go in and see if you like anything, whether it's clothes, shoes, bags, and so on. You could buy a full set." "Well, let's go first." Juniper walks into the store with June and Holly in her left hand and right hand. The store manager of Paradise has some helplessness. She thinks that Harry is an ordinary student with little knowledge and didn't know the brand of Paradise. The items sold here are not from those small brand stores, which are no less than 100,000. However, people have entered the store and they couldn't be forced out, which has a bad impact on the brand. Also, they couldn't help but follow to go in and thought to wait until they saw clearly the price above the tag. Needless to say, oneself has also taken the initiative to leave. Harry was outside holding a squid string in both hands and the food was hot. They have to eat this kind of food while it's hot, but it's not delicious when it's cold. And more in line with the taste of Harry, so he had to eat a little faster, inevitably looking a bit embarrassed. At this time, the 2 women dressed in famous brands appeared to be coming to the store. They go to the door to see Harry that wolfed down the food. 2 people at the same time frowned. One of the heavily makeup women looked disgusted and she said, "Why didn't Paradise pay attention to his appearance? There are so many people standing at the door." Another woman who panted her makeup a little lighter was also impolite. "Yes, what are they eating? It looks disgusting." "It stinks. It's kind of like an unhygienic street stall snack." "Hey, you poor loser. Don't stand there. It's disgusting." Harry had been eating well, but no one could get in the way. Who would have thought that there were 2 charming goods which were forced by affection? At this time, they not only looked at Harry with disgust, but also covered their nose with an unbearable look. The so-called people who offend him, the irony on the face, and Harry wasn't polite to them. "You 2 are full. What's the matter with me eating here?" The woman with heavy makeup said, "Even if it's in the way, you're a poor loser and you don't want to see where this is. This is the world's top luxury store. What qualifications do you have to stand here?" Harry immediately laughed. "I'm not qualified, and you 2 are qualified? Oh, they all have 1 nose and 2 eyes. What kind of fairy do you pretend to be? You have no quality. That's to say, smell hanging silk has the same virtue. It makes people feel sick when they talk." Harry shook his head and felt that these 2 women were mad dogs, and there were still those who could not be saved. They don't know how they feel superior. For this kind of people, Harry was not in the mood to quarrel with them. He didn't gain or lose his identity. "I don't see eye to eye with you." Then he moved a step away from them. Let's go. I'm in a good mood today. I don't have the same opinion as you. The two women snorted, then they were no longer entangled with Harry, turned and entered the shop. After a while, Harry finished eating the squid string in his hand, took out a paper towel to wipe his hand, and pushed the door into the shop. To this kind of high-end luxury store, the decoration is good. Inside and outside the door are almost two worlds. Three-layer hollow glass door is clear and transparent, which also insulates the outside noise. As soon as you enter the store, you can no longer hear the noise on the street outside. But Harry heard another movement that he didn't like very much. "You hear me? I've got a crush on this bag." "Why should I give it to you? Because I'm the first one to look after it?" This was Juniper's voice. "With my money, this bag is the latest model this year, and it's also a limited edition. It's more than $500. Can you afford it?" "How do I know I couldn't afford it?" "I couldn't afford it, but my brother has money." "Your brother? What a joke. Your family background? Let me hear it. Can your family match me?" Hearing the dispute, Harry took a few steps to get there. The reason was very simple. After entering the store, Juniper took a fancy to a handbag. Although she was only 10 years old, the girls mature early and basically have no teacher in dressing up. In addition to the small and scattered items that girls often carry, the biggest function of handbags was to look good and set off their temperament. Juniper's favorite bag was really the latest or limited edition. But Harry hadn't entered the store yet, and the three of them haven't finished shopping, so they haven't paid. When the two women spoke rudely to Harry at the door who came in, one of them also took a fancy to this bag and had a dispute with Juniper. "You're a little kid. You haven't even begun to grow hair. You're so precious. It's no use to buying a bag." Woman with heavy makeup still is talking hard. "At your young age, do you want to dress up and go out to seduce men? Do you deserve it?" You. Juniper was very young. She couldn't speak well, and she was speechless after a few words. June, who was standing next to Juniper, usually talks less. She is also powerless in this kind of dispute and couldn't help Juniper to answer back. If she wants to vent her anger, June usually uses her fist, which is a very straightforward way. But the problem is that this is just an ordinary dispute now. There's no need to make a fuss at all. In the same way, Holly was even worse. She was a talented woman who only studies and plays piano and paints all day long, and she couldn't scold others like a street shrew. Fortunately, Harry came in at the time, and Juniper immediately caught the straw to save her life. "Brother, these two are bullying me," Juniper said with tears in her eyes. "Ah, it turns out this is your brother." "I'm so happy. What a great person I was at the time. It turns out that he's actually a smelly, hanging silk who is standing at the door and eating snacks at the stall." The woman with the heavy makeup smiles when she sees Harry. The other also sniffed. "Take your sister out of here and don't look at what this place is, and don't touch anything anymore. Can you afford to pay for soiling the things here?" Harry said with a smile. "You talk to me like you brush your teeth with cow dung, talking with such malice." "Damn! What are you talking about? Hanging wire is hanging wire. You really have no quality to speak." The store managers and salesmen here say that the two waves of customers are going to have conflicts. Of course, they couldn't just watch the excitement and hurry out to make ends meet. "Everyone, please calm down. It's just this little thing. There's no need to do that," said the manager. "Manager Louis, I'm a VIP customer here. Now I'm very dissatisfied with your store. Can all kinds of trash people come in here? Drive them out quickly," she said coldly. The store manager hesitated. Although she didn't like the appearance of these two women, they were VIP customers. But Harry didn't look like he had much money seeing his casual attire. For the sake of the turnover at the store, the best solution was to let them leave. But now the situation was like this. It's not appropriate to ask people to leave or drive them away. In any case, someone exposed their bad attitude in the store and drives people out. The key men on the internet don't care whether Harry can afford it or not. Targets must be aimed at Paradise stores. There's no way. Now, there were many people who hate the rich. For this kind of store that only the rich can afford, it's even more inviable. "Oh, VIP is so amazing. It's so arrogant in front of me. I really don't know what it means." Harry was not ready to go at all. If they really leave, these two women will be prouder. Besides, Harry has no reason to back down, and he has the courage to deal with this kind of money worshiper. "How much is this bag? I'll take it," Harry said directly to the store manager. This bag has a limited edition, and the price of our Paradise brand is..." Harry said impatiently. Just say how much it cost. It's 50,000. There's no discount because it's new. The manager had to quote the price. The woman with heavy makeup next to him held her arm and sneered. Do you hear him clearly? It's nearly $60,000. Can you afford it? Another light makeup woman also disdains to say, You hang silk. Work hard all your life. It's good to earn so much money. Get out of here. Don't stand here and lose face. Harry was too lazy to pay attention to this kind of goods. He just said to the store manager, I'll buy it. What? You'll buy it? Everyone present except Harry was shocked. How could you afford it? You're just a really smelly dropper. How can you have so much money? Juniper was so angry now that she laughed and said, You two are blind. My brother's not a hanging silk. You can be killed if you take out any pocket money. The store manager couldn't believe it and said, Sir, you're right. Do you really want to buy it? Harry nodded and said, I didn't say it wrong. You didn't hear it wrong. I want to buy this bag. Good. The store manager swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The other two women were not happy and cried, Wait, this bag couldn't be sold to them. Why? The store manager asked, a little dissatisfied. In anyone's opinion, these two women were making trouble out of nothing, but they have the strength. To put it bluntly, it means to have money. If you have money, you'll have the strength to be unreasonable and you could do whatever you want. The heavy makeup woman took a golden card out of her bag and said, If I remember correctly, as a VIP customer of Paradise, I have the preemptive right. With that, she was very proud of holding the card in front of Harry's eyes. I'm the gold VIP member here. I'm going to order this bag. I don't know who dares to rob me. Even if the store manager wants to help Harry, there was no way. That's the rule. Although Harry can take out more than $50,000 to buy this kind of bag, it's really amazing. But this woman here, who is a VIP member, enjoys the preemptive right, so the store manager has no reason to not sell it to her. Otherwise, as long as this woman complains, the store manager's career will come to an end. There was no doubt that this unreasonable woman will be able to do it, even if they didn't sell the bag to her. The woman with heavy makeup has a triumphant expression on her face. She sneers at Harry and reaches for the handbag beside her. But Harry stopped. Wait, who will let you take it? Don't you give up. The woman is a member here, a gold VIP member. Do you understand, a member? And she shook the little card again in front of Harry's eyes. Harry sneered. If you want to use the rules here to crush me, you really look down on me. Then he asked the store manager standing on one side, How are the members graded? Well, yes, generally speaking, there are 3 levels, gold members, platinum members, and diamond members. The store manager replied. Harry nodded. In general, this kind of big brand marketing operation uses membership systems to circle customers, and it is certain that different levels will be set up to distinguish members. I guess the gold members are the lowest and the diamonds are the highest? Juniper asked with a smile. Store manager looked at the woman with the heavy makeup awkwardly and nodded helplessly. In front of the gold members, it's a bit inappropriate to say that they were the lowest level, but there's no way. That's the rule. It's not okay not to admit it. Ah, I thought it was such a powerful member. It turns out that it's the lowest level. I couldn't think of it. With Harry's support and confidence, Juniper satirizes people when she opens her mouth. Well, what are you proud of, little girl? You're not even a member. Harry said with a sneer. It's going to be there soon. Can you tell me how to become a member here, manager? The store manager said, Well, I'll use the card recharge method here. Gold members need to handle 1 million consumption cards. Platinum members need to handle 3 million, and diamond members need to handle 6 million. Harry nodded, directly took out his bank card and handed it to the store manager, saying, If I had said no, I would have done nothing. Give me 3 diamond membership cards. The whole shop fell into a silence, and the needle could be heard. Harry's move shocked everyone. Even Holly, who knows that Harry is rich, was a little stunned. 6 million credit cards, also do 18 million. Until now, Holly finally realized how frightening it was for the rich to spend. Diamond member. The store manager didn't speak very well. As the manager of the top luxury exclusive stores, he usually meets all the rich people, but it's the first time that he came into such a special experience as today. 3 diamond membership cards, $18 million. Harry said to do, even without blinking eyelids. Senior members have a higher right of the first refusal, right? Harry asked with a smile. The manager stammered. Yes, and there's an exclusive member discount. Discount didn't matter as long as I want to buy the things no one will qualify to compete with me on the line. Don't be in a daze. Quickly swipe the card for me. Yes, just a moment. The store manager flurried over the card from Harry and walked to the counter with trembling steps. 3 diamond members were all dealt with today, and the store manager's annual performance reached the standard ahead of time, and the 3 end bonus was indispensable. The store manager was very happy and yet complicated now. He didn't expect that he was wrong, Harry, who thought it was an ordinary student, which was super rich person. The other salesmen in the shop all changed their eyes when they looked at Harry. They were so handsome and beautiful, and now they're so rich. In the eyes of a few salesmen, the image of Harry immediately became tall. He's a rich man. I've lost my eyes. Yeah, I don't know if I can leave contact information later. It's not easy for a rich and forthright man to meet. If only I could be his girlfriend, I could have anything I wanted. Don't daydream. Don't you see that the 2 girls around him are more beautiful than each other? We can't match them. Not necessarily. Maybe they like our farm food when they eat more delicious food. The saleswoman whispered while the store manager excitedly went to handle the formalities for Harry. Instead, the 2 coquettish women were left alone. The woman with the heavy makeup was not happy immediately. What do you mean? I'm fighting with you to the end today. Do you think you're great to be a diamond member? Juniper sneered. I didn't say it's great. If you have the ability, you can do it as well. Huh, just do it. Who is short of money? Woman with heavy makeup didn't agree. Now she could see that Harry was not smelly hanging silk, but even 3 diamond membership cards didn't scare her. But the light makeup woman who came with her was a little guilty. She quietly pulled her sleeve and said in a low voice, What are you doing? You're really going to be a diamond member? The woman with the heavy makeup said, It's 6 million. My boyfriend gave me all the credit cards. I'm going to get one today. Then she took out a few credit cards from the bag, glanced at Harry, and went to the counter alone and threw them out. Manager Louis, I'm also a diamond member. Ah, well, just a moment, the woman with heavy makeup said impatiently. What are you waiting for? I'm a gold member. Now I'm going to upgrade my membership level. According to the rules, you have to give me priority. Yes, but... The requirement of women with heavy makeup made Manager Louis hesitant because there was no clear regulation on who should be the first and who should be the second when dealing with memberships. After all, it's a top luxury store, not some market with open stalls. What's more, Harry had 3 tickets in a row, while the woman in the heavy makeup is just upgrading 1 member. Considering the performance, it was definitely the most suitable for Harry. But after all, this woman with heavy makeup can also be a member here. If it really offended her, she can complain back and she'll be a shopkeeper. Why don't you give me priority? I am your earliest member. You dare to wait for me or I'll complain to you. Sure enough, the woman with heavy makeup was threatening. The manager was helpless. Harry didn't care. Anyway, he's not going to care about this little thing with this shrew. Then he reached out and motioned to store manager Louis casually, which seemed to make the woman with heavy makeup feel that Harry shrank, and he raised his head with pride and gave Harry a glance like an old hen. Manager Louis can only reluctantly take over a few credit cards thrown by women with heavy makeup and brush them on the machine in turn. Because of the amount, each card needs to be brushed hundreds of thousands of millions. But just finished a card, the second just entered the amount, not waiting to enter the password to confirm the transaction. The heavy makeup woman's mobile phone rings. Hello, honey, yes, I'm in Paradise. Oh, people want to upgrade their membership cards. Diamond members need to charge 6 million. A burst of numb words let the other people in the shop immediately feel uncomfortable. Harry was not a chicken skin. This woman with heavy makeup didn't speak like this normally, but when she answers the phone, she suddenly becomes alive. Her tone becomes sweet and she feels good about herself. But it's disgusting not to think about the influence on people nearby. And she did not feel how disgusting the affection was. Just after playing game on the phone, there was a roar on the phone because the store was very quiet and everyone heard it clearly. I've told you for a long time that the company's efficiency was not good recently, so you could only spend less money. There's a woman in the family who manages the money bag tightly. You don't need a credit card. Harry, several people couldn't help but immediately laugh. The woman with the heavy makeup was aggrieved and said, They didn't spend much money. It's just upgrading to a member. You don't have to give him 10 millions of dollars, and you're satisfying me with everything you say all day long. You're paralyzed. Money is not what you can earn. Of course you don't feel sorry. It's millions. Was this small amount of money? I don't even have $10,000 of a pocket money for a month. I'm paralyzed. Hey, you're unreasonable. You blame me for your wife's not giving you money, but now I'm suffering with you. Who can I tell about my grievance? Juniper burst out laughing. I thought it was a rich lady. After a long time, it turned out to be a loser. Harry also couldn't help laughing. No wonder this woman was so arrogant. Nowadays, the quality of junior students generally needs to be improved. Don't quibble. I gave you the credit card to use on necessities, not to upgrade members. The man on the other end of the phone growled and hung up. Only the woman in heavy makeup was sad and speechless. The store manager also was holding a smile. His face expression could not be controlled, also convulsed a few times. Fortunately, professional quality in place. Well, these cards have been sealed. Do you have any other payment methods? He asked. The woman with heavy makeup no longer had the status of arrogance just now. Relying on the money given by the man, she was now broken and her confidence had been completely exhausted. She was such a woman who didn't go to work and expects men to give her money to eat, drink, and have fun all day long. There was other money there and her credit card couldn't be used, so she becomes penniless. The man was quick. As soon as he hung up, he suspended his credit cards. That I don't, the woman with heavy makeup said awkwardly, turned her head, pulled the woman with her, and ran away. Store manager Louis was stunned for a moment before he realized that the credit cards were still in his hands. He rushed out and yelled, I forgot to take your card. No, I couldn't afford it anyway. Woman with heavy makeup didn't look back. Manager Louis went back to the store, shaking his head and saying, What's the matter? The several salespeople can be regarded as watching a good play. Usually, the shop, even a customer, was not. It seems boring, even chatting to not find the topic. Today, the store was really busy. This woman was really shameless. That's to say, when you're a junior, you should be upright. What were they so crazy about it? It's like a slap in the face, huh? It's disgusting to take people's money for granted. Well, don't say it. Don't you see any guests in the shop? Manager Louis yelled. He had to finish up the business with Harry. Sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Parker. It's okay. Anyway, we have to buy other things. We won't be in a hurry for a while, Harry said. The salesperson's eyes became hotter when they looked at him. This was the real rich man. Tens of millions of money can be brushed out without blinking an eye. It's just like that woman who didn't have enough money to come out. She pretended to be forced by 5 people and 6 people. In the end, she pretended to be forced. Instead, she was screwed. Harry asked June and the other two to take a look of other things that they wanted to buy and choose the right one to try on. Juniper was still young, so she chose a very fresh dress for herself. Because of her duty, June chooses clothes that were convenient for sports. Holly was shyer because she was embarrassed to spend Harry's money, and she had never bought such expensive things, so she was a little timid. Holly, don't be outspoken to me. Just buy what you should buy. The money is full. It's a waste if you don't buy it. I know, but it's expensive, Holly said in a low voice. Harry smiles and said to Juniper, Juniper, take your teacher and choose more for her. Juniper smiled, grabbed Holly's hand, and walked away. Mr. Parker, here, with the 3 diamond membership cards. They have been set up for you. Each card has a consumption limit of $6 million, which can be used by any Paradise store in the world. Manager Louis came out from behind the counter and handed Harry 3 exquisite cards respectfully. The 2 sides of the 3 cards were inlaid with fine diamond particles, which were very dazzling under the light. The production cost of the card alone was not a small amount, but considering that the card was purchased with more than $6 million, it's not surprising. Paradise's exclusive store, all members were recharged. With this card, it means that there were 6 million people in it that can be used in exclusive stores. Of course, there are many corresponding privileges. For example, every quarter will give diamond level members a beautiful cosmetic or jewelry. There were also tailor-made clothes, shoes, and hats or handbags for diamond members. Harry didn't care. Anyway, he came out today to buy a lot. It didn't matter to spend the money. Whether it was members or not, it was secondary. If it wasn't for fighting with a little two just now, Harry didn't expect to deal with the membership affairs. Under the guidance of the salesperson, June and the three of them chose their favorite clothes and went into the fitting room to try them on. After waiting for a moment, the doors of the three fitting rooms opened almost at the same time. The three people who came out dazed the salesman in the shop. Harry also raised his head unexpectedly. Although Juniper was small, she was sweet and lovely. She didn't need to dress up to see that she was a little beauty. Not to mention June, her beautiful appearance can't be ignored, even if she was wearing a beggar's clothes. Before she went to Harry, Holly changed her usual casual way of dressing up. Her hair was carefully taken care of, which made her face sore. Now the three people have changed into the world's top luxury clothes, and their temperament had gone to a higher level. The lively Juniper was like a princess coming out of the palace, while the quiet Holly was like a princess with a sacred feeling. June was the most eye-catching one. She used to be the top appearance in the world. Now, with the help of clothes, her temperament was like an immortal aura, which makes people afraid of being profaned. My God, I know that the clothes in our shop look so beautiful. It's so beautiful. If I had money, I'd like to wear the same one. If any man can buy me this dress, I will marry him right away. The salespeople were all surprised. They covered their mouths, and their eyes were about to stare out. They have been dealing with these clothes in the shop all day and have seen all kinds of customers try them on here, but June was the only one who can produce such amazing effect. She's not a star. What is she? I don't think I've seen anything like her before. Stars couldn't be so beautiful. It's so beautiful that people suffocate. June's beauty shocked even the women. Fortunately, Harry was the only man here. He was used to being with June. If there were other men, it was certain that they will cause a sensation. It was estimated that many will have to stand up and fight against Harry. That's good. You all wear the right suit. Buy it and choose something else, Harry said with satisfaction. The clothes June tried on were suits, clothes, and shoes, and matching jewelry, totaling more than 1 million. With such a big hand, the price of top luxury brands are very unusual. Ordinary people buy clothes thousands of dollars, are high grade, tens of thousands of dollars is precious, and millions, well, they don't even dare to think. But for Harry, this money was similar to drizzle. Even so, he still feels a little aggrieved by June. In fact, from Harry's point of view, whether clothes were good or not was not a matter of how big a brand or how expensive they are. Whether they fit or not was the most important thing. But now, after all, it's a society that looks at the surface. If you walk outside and don't wear luxury, no one will respect you. Go and have a look at some of them over there. I think they're very good, Harry suggested. Holly was surprised and said, do you want to buy it? I think it's good to have this one. One piece is not enough. If you scratch it, what should you do? Prepare more pieces to change. The view of money, like dirt forthright, immediately captured a group of salespeople. One by one, the eyes were red. They should just hang it on Harry's body and ask for nourishment. In the end, Harry and June almost cleaned up the Paradise store just like the Raiders. In this kind of top luxury store, there are not many goods to display on the store. It's a high-end route, even product that's listed in a separate cabinet. Now that Harry's sweeping, there is not much left in the store. Each of them bought 3 or 4 pieces of clothes, as well as handbags, brooches, hairpins, and other small pieces of decoration. 3 membership cards, total of 18 million, were basically used up. Louis's eyes narrowed and couldn't open. Today, he not only handed 3 diamond members, but also made all customers consume. It's just luck. Harry's guests couldn't always ask for it. After the purchase, Harry waved his hand and was ready to leave. But after 2 steps, he thought of something. Turning around, he came to the manager, Louis, handed him his membership card to him, and said, "The quota here has been used up. I'll charge a little more." Such a light word almost made manager Louis dizzy. Now he couldn't hold Harry and chew on it. It's not that he's a rich customer. It's his ancestors. Okay. Mr. Parker, how much more are you going to recharge? Excited, even the name of Harry has changed. The diamond membership card handled by Harry does not mean that the amount in it will be invalid when it was used up, but still retain the privileges of members by the money spent inside. Still, he wants to continue to buy in Paradise products. It has to continue to recharge. Harry said casually, "Each card will still 6 million." Louis's legs were soft. In half a day, Harry threw out a total of $36 million. This was the fighter of the local tyrant, the man of the super rich. Even those salespeople were now the same as petrochemicals. One by one, if they were fixed, they don't move. Manager Louis took the bank card that Harry handed it to him again with trembling hands and filled the card with money with trembling hands. On weekdays, the calm temperament that he trained strictly became foam at this time. After working for so long in the luxury goods industry, this was the first time to meet such a cool customer. After recharging the 3 memberships cards, there were another 6 million in each. Harry was just throwing out a few dollars, which makes people wonder how much wealth he has. If Harry's real property figures were known to these people, they will go into shock and need to be sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Manager Louis, with all the salesmen, just like his grandfather, sent Harry and his party out of the store. When Harry disappeared in the street, he still looked at the distance reluctantly, reluctant to take back his eyes. Well, today I finally see what a real rich man is. Yes, at first, who could have thought that he was a poor student? It's called self-restraint and low-key. It's not on the same level as those who show off everywhere. If only my boyfriend were such a rich man, I could have whatever I wanted. I would be as happy as a fairy. Wake up and start to move things. Walking on the street, Harry handed out the 3 diamond membership cards, June and the other 2. Take them all. They look good. I want you guys to buy yourself in the future, Harry said. Juniper took it over, held Harry in her arms, and looked up and gave him a big kiss on the face. Thank you, brother. I knew that brother was the best. June silently looked over and didn't speak. She and Harry were inseparable in his life, and they don't care about such a card. Holly was different. She was just a tutor hired by Harry. Having just bought millions of luxury goods, she was already flattered. Now Harry still wants to give his membership card to her. How dare Holly accept it? She saw clearly just now, but Harry recharged $6 million in this card. Mr. Parker, I really can't take this. Holly quickly declined. No, here you are. If there's anything you could do it. Harry puts the card directly in Holly's hand. I really couldn't. You bought so many things for me. I shouldn't have asked for them, let alone this card. Holly was about to cry and suddenly remembered what her best friend Carol had said to her before. At that time, she was just coming to Harry. She was very curious about what kind of person he was. Her best friend Carol said that Harry was very generous to his friends. Now, Holly has finally realized that this is more than just generosity. It can frighten people to death. She thought of Carol again and said that Harry was very good to the girls. Many girls fell in love with Harry because of this. Carol also warned Holly that if she didn't have many ideas, said she would hold on to them. Otherwise, she would be trapped. Now, although Harry didn't mean to please Holly or want to have any purpose for her, he deliberately uses money to smash it. But Holly was a little removed. The girl in the face of such a painful man will not be removed. Come on, don't say anything anymore. It's a teacher worship ceremony for Juniper. You should accept it. Harry couldn't refuse to say. Brother, there's a doll shop ahead. Let's go and have a look. Juniper suddenly gets excited and runs with Harry. Girls like fluffy dolls, and Juniper was no exception. Harry suddenly remembered that when she was discharged from the hospital, June bought a bear doll as a gift for Juniper. At that time, Juniper was very happy. Now, Harry knows that she really likes this kind of plush doll. The doll shop in front of them was not a small one. It was full of all kinds of dolls. It also attracts a large number of people who go shopping with their children. Of course, there were many young couples, hand in hand, in the shop to buy. As soon as they came in, Harry attracted everyone's attention. The main reason was that the beauties around Harry was too beautiful, which attracts all men's eyes. More women at this time to see Harry, they were carrying Paradise brand shopping bags, was also a complex vision. Some were envious and some even pulled their boyfriends to be cute. They have to buy them themselves, regardless of whether their boyfriends have the consumption power. Wow, little sister, you're buying from this Paradise? A girl couldn't help ask. Holly nodded, not very well. Yes. How much was it? Is it expensive? Harry laughed. It's not expensive. It's only a matter of millions. Huh. The air in the shop seems to have been sucked clean. Millions? Isn't that expensive? It's rich. You can afford it. That's rich. I couldn't afford that. Don't think about the luxury for ordinary people like us. The customers in the store were amazed and scared by Harry's big pen. But they didn't know, Harry said it leisurely. If he said the real amount of the consumption, more than $30 million, he would really scare many people. Brother, this bear, and sister, June gave me a pair. Juniper said happily, well, that's true. I bought it. Juniper said happily, that's true. I bought it. This deer is lovely too. Oh, buy this one. And what about this little dog? Should I buy it? Harry does not hesitate as long as Juniper likes it. That was the top buy. After strolling around the store, Juniper's eyes were all full of frills. She feels so cute when she looks at any dolls. Finally, Harry called the clerk directly. I bought all the dolls in your shop. I'll calculate how much and swipe the card. A word was not allowed. Just like the thunder, it blows everyone into the shop. They don't know what to do. And how can anyone want to buy all this? What a rich man. All bought? How much does it cost? The shop was a regular doll shop. Everyone was genuine and the price was not cheap. A doll the size of a ball cost hundreds of dollars, and those larger ones were often thousands. There were also popular dolls and tens of thousands of them. As a result, Harry waved them all at once. Brother, why did you buy all of them? How can you put so many? Juniper was surprised. Harry said, it's okay. There's plenty of vacant rooms at home. I'll give you a room for dolls. All of a sudden, people began to think that if the thousands of dolls in this store, they must have a room with several hundred square meters. In this way, it's a surprise. How big was the place where Harry lives? The clerk of the doll shop was also confused. Sir, do you really want to buy it all? He couldn't believe it and carefully confirmed with Harry. Harry nodded. Yes, I want to buy them all. Okay, I'll calculate it for you now. The clerk in the doll shop excitedly ran to this recycling bank, shaking her hand and checking in front of the computer. A moment later, the boss, who was not in the store, also received the news and came. After seeing Harry, he first looked carefully and then determined that he really met big customers today. The boss here was afraid of meeting some cheaters, but after seeing Harry's extraordinary temperament, especially with a lot of Paradise shopping bags, he concludes that he has met the rich man. Sorry, everyone. We're closed today. Sorry. Boss apologized to the other customers in the shop and sent them out respectfully. With such a big client as Harry, he really didn't have to do the business with others today. Even if he wanted to continue to operate, Harry had all the goods in the store. After finishing the business of Harry, they can continue to put the goods on the shelves from the warehouse. Although those ordinary customers were dissatisfied, they dared not to show it. They were just ordinary people. It's good to buy 1 or 2 dolls. It's normal for the boss to suspend business when he meets a big, all-inclusive customer like Harry. Sir, please take a seat and have a rest. It will take some time for my staff to take it out of stock. The shop owner flatters Harry to sit in the resting area of the shop. Paul, why do you look so pale? Give this man tea quickly. The shop owner yelled at his employees again. Oh, come on. Oh. The employee Paul answered. Harry waved his hand and said, You're welcome, boss. We're not thirsty. Just sit for a while. Usually, in the manner, Harry's taste of tea was also cultivated. It's not like drinking bitter water when you drink good tea. You usually drink top black tea and green tea, which you couldn't buy in the market. What good tea can be found in this doll shop? Harry was definitely not used to it. Boss, calculate the price. All the dolls in the shop are $2.8 million in total. The shop assistant came to quote the price. Before she finished, the shop owner waved his hand. All right, don't say a change. Then he looked at Harry, rubbed his eyes, and said with a smile, Sir, I'll erase the change for you. It'll be $2 million. What do you think? Harry nodded. Okay, but I bought so much, and it's not convenient for me to take it back. I'll give you $2.8 million. The extra $8 million could be the delivery fee. The shop owner hesitated and said, Oh, well, yeah, we can do that. I just don't know where to send it. He was worried that Harry was a tourist from other places. If he was allowed to send him thousands of miles away, so many dolls would cost a lot of money just to freight it. Harry said with a smile, Don't worry, it's not far away. It's on Moon Island. Moon Island? Oh, it's okay. They're over there? What, Moon Island? Then the shop owner suddenly jumped up in surprise. People in Florida didn't know much about Moon Island before. But with the development of Harry, more and more people knew, and later a tourist came and he was very startled. Now everyone knows what Moon Island is, and it's a holiday paradise, the real paradise on Earth. But what surprised the shopkeeper was not here. As far as he knew, Moon Island was only for tourists, and no one had ever heard of settlement. Sir, you live on Moon Island. Well, that's not true. I live on the island near Moon Island, called Allen Island. I'll send you the location. When you deliver the goods, you can hire a boat directly. Someone on the island would help you dock. The shop owner gave a smoke to himself. He had heard of Allen Island before. Previously, it was said that a magnificent manor had been built on that island, and even the outer wall of the building was inlaid with precious jade. The value of the manor was beyond measure, not to mention how rich the owners are. Well, are you, Harry knows what the shop owner wants to ask, and he didn't hide it. After all, he has to ask someone to deliver the goods. He nodded and said, "Yes, I'm the owner of the manor on the island." There was another breath. The shopkeeper turned his eyes and almost pulled it out. He did not expect this at the shop today, a true god. At the beginning, he thought that Harry was just an ordinary rich man. In order to please the girls around him, he also understood that he spent a lot of money. After all, in order to catch up with the girls, a lot of the rich men's sports cars were said to buy them. These $2 million is a little fun. It's a pity that Harry is so scary. The owner of Helen Island Manor was also the owner of Moon Island. How much is Moon Island? Hundreds of billions. This does not include the funds invested in the later development, but the people who can buy Moon Island, money alone was not enough. If you have no power, you would have been eaten alive. Moon Island is a good place. Those rich and powerful people will not let others eat such a piece of fat. In other words, if Harry did not have the strength, even if he bought Moon Island, he will not stay long. Sooner or later, he will have to be taken away by others. But Moon Island was now under development and still in the hands of Harry, which shows that Harry's identity was a bit terrible. The shop owner was a man with a small fortune. Otherwise, he would not have such a big street from the shop in Florida. Therefore, compared with the rumors in the upper circles, he generally knows something. But with his strength, Harry was not even an ant under the foot of an elephant. It's a little dust floating at most. What's your name?" the shopkeeper asked cautiously. "It's Harry Parker." "Mr. Parker, it's a pleasure to meet you. Just now, I didn't know you. I really don't want to neglect you." The shopkeeper's eyes was red and his ears got hot. He didn't think he would meet a real person. If he could take this rare opportunity to make friends with Harry, he would fly to the sky. It's a pity that Harry was not interested in such a small person like him. He said directly, "I have to continue shopping. Now that the money has been calculated, please swipe the card quickly." "Oh, yeah. Okay, yes, this way, please," the shop owner said a little disappointedly. Taking out the bank card, more than $2.8 million brushed out, and wait for a while, the shop owner holding a long roll of purchase tickets to the hands of Harry. "Mr. Parker, this is the purchase certificate. If the doll in my shop has quality problems, you can come to me at any time." Harry did not care to take over. "Okay, that's it. You should hurry to arrange the delivery." "Okay, yes. The owner of the doll shop carefully sent Harry out of the door. Although he didn't have any friendship with Harry, it was enough for him to go out and boast that he did business with the man of the year in Florida. After Harry had been shopping for a while, he bought a little too many things. He put them in his hands and struggled, so when he went back to the parking place to put them down first, he was ready to find a place to eat. There were times when they were tired of eating at home all day. Although the food outside was not as luxurious as Harry's, it was also unique. However, before they started, Randy called. "Harry, where are you? There's no one else around. Is it convenient to talk to you?" Randy's tone was mysterious. He didn't know what was going on. Harry was stunned for a while and said, "I'm playing in the shopping street downtown. What's the matter with you?" Harvey was recuperating in his own manner. Randy and Millie were together all day, but they haven't seen each other for several days. Recently, Harry didn't get in touch with them. Today, Randy suddenly made such a call. When he spoke, it was strange, which made Harry a little confused. "You're in downtown now. Oh, that's right. Come to me. I'll take you to a fun place." Randy suddenly got excited. "Where do you want to go?" Harry frowned and said, I'm taking Juniper shopping right now. Is Juniper still there with you? Oh, June must be with you too. Let them go back by themselves first. It's inconvenient to take them where I want to take you. Harry was strange. What's inconvenient? What are you doing? Make it clear first. Randy laughed. No, I couldn't say it now. You'll know later. In a word, let June take Juniper back quickly. I'll go and see you now. Then he hung up. Harry put away his mobile phone and looked at June blankly. June asked, Sir, was it Mr. Banner? Well, he said that he would take me to a place and that you guys should go back first. June immediately had an opinion. No, I will not go. I will protect your safety. At this time, Harry wanted to know what medicine Randy sold in his gourd. He said, It'll be okay. There are many bodyguards around him. You don't have to worry about our safety. Otherwise, you can go back first. June was very determined. She won't give up on Harry's safety at all. Randy's phone call was very strange, and he doesn't know that Harry always keeps pace with June. Today, he insisted that Harry let June go. There must be something wrong. Seeing that June didn't want to, Harry thought, if not, Tiny Tim seems to be here in Florida. I'll call him here. You could take them back if you want first. Tiny Tim's personal strength was also very strong. Although it was slightly weaker than June's comprehensive strength, no one could stop him in fighting. Because the body was as strong as a bear and the face was also very fierce, so Manson likes it, and Harry has to arrange him to play an important role in the crew. Today, the crew was going to make up a few scenes in the special effects studio of Florida Film and Television, and Tiny Tim was also there. That's why Harry said that. June thought about it for a while, but nodded and said, Well, I'll come back as soon as I send Juniper back. Harry shook his head. Today, it's a holiday for you. Don't make yourself too tired all day. When you go back, you'll stay in the manor. If there is something on my side, I'll let you know. Well, the car will stay here for you, and we'll take a taxi back when Tiny Tim comes. All right. With that, Harry made a phone call to Tiny Tim. Sir, are you looking for me? Well, I'm downtown now, and I'll send you a seat later. You can come with me. All right. Oh, yes. You're filming now, right? Are you finished? I just finished shooting my part. It's all right. That's good. Come here. Harry nodded. Although Manson was submissive in front of Harry all day, he was afraid of offending Harry. But if Harry really takes away the people that he's filming in his crew, Manson doesn't like it very much, and secretly the old boy must jump. For making movies, Manson was more devoted and persistent than anyone else. If Tiny Tim didn't come to take over, June won't go. However, it didn't take long to wait. After taking a taxi, Tiny Tim came to the parking place of Harry. Sir, do you have any orders for your subordinates to come here? Tiny Tim said in a loud voice. It's no big deal. June wants to send Juniper back to the island. I have to stay here and wait for Randy. June was not sure about my safety and asked that if you could take over. Harry explained. It's like this. Mr. June can be rest assured that I'm here to ensure the safety of my sir. Tiny Tim patted his chest with a big hand like a palm fan and assured. June was much younger than Tiny Tim, but because she was Harry's bodyguard, her status was very high. Usually these bodyguards called June's sister to show respect. Well, don't be careless about the safety of the sir. If you have any information, please report it to me at any time. June was still worried. This made Harry laugh and cry. Well, I'm not a child like Juniper. As for being so nervous, I'll see you later. Seeing Harry using himself as a metaphor, Juniper was not happy. Brother, you look down on me. I am not a child. Good, good. Juniper is like a grown-up. She's the most sensible. Harry coaxed himself quickly. With Tiny Tim following Harry here, June was a little relieved, so she takes Juniper and Holly to take a taxi outside. Seeing them leave, Harry takes out his mobile phone to call Randy and said, Okay, I've already sent them off. Where do you want to go now? I'm at the airport. You wait for me for a while. I'll be there, Randy said and hung up again. What's the matter? Why is it so mysterious? Harry scratched his head. From the airport to the city, it will take nearly an hour if there was no traffic jam. Harry didn't want to wait there. Looking at Tiny Tim, he asked, Have you eaten yet? Tiny Tim scratched his head and giggled. I came here just after the shooting, but I haven't had time yet. The guy looks like a giant. He eats a lot of food. The portion of a meal was for like 10 people. In order to maintain his frightening strength, he couldn't be a vegetarian. He has to eat a lot of meat. If Harry didn't have enough money, he couldn't afford such a big stomach. It's just that they haven't eaten yet. Let's go. I have to get some food first and get on the bus, Harry said. When it comes to eating, Tiny Tim's eyes were bright. This was the first time the boss had invited him to dinner alone. It's a great honor. Moreover, after a day of fighting in the crew, Tiny Tim had been hungry for a long time, and he wanted to eat a whole cow. Harry was also a little hungry. He had been shopping all day and was preparing to eat. As a result, Randy called and sent June away. Now, Randy couldn't get by for a while, and Harry didn't want to go hungry. He drove his super cross-country car to find a place to eat with Tiny Tim. Considering Tiny Tim's appetite, of course, he had to find a fast one to serve food. Otherwise, he would not be able to keep up with him. Around the city, Harry found a fast food restaurant which was not busy in business and parked the car at the door. Around the city, restaurants were busy 24 hours a day. But this was called a suspicious fast food storefront, actually. Cannot see the several guests that appeared. Must be because of how delicious it was. However, because Harry's time was limited, he also brought Tiny Tim, a man with amazing appetite. Harry didn't have much room to be picky about the taste of the food as long as it's not hard to swallow. The main thing was to be quick. After Harry's car stops at the gate of the fast food restaurant, the waiter who solicits customers at the gate of the restaurant almost stares out of his eyes. He didn't know what kind of car Harry was driving, but he knew it was absolutely not ordinary. The appearance of this luxury car was very different from that of an ordinary car. What's more, Harry's car was a top luxury car among luxury cars, and its appearance was extraordinary. The little waiter estimated his heart that people who drive this kind of car is rich or expensive, but they definitely wouldn't come to their own shop to eat. Rich people go to the star hotels. Who will consent to go to their small, low-grade fast food restaurant? Isn't it a price drop? Oh, the heart was struggling, and in the end, the waiting to get off the car to tell the car owner, the hotel parking space, non-dining customers cannot park or do nothing when you don't need it. Considering the appearance of this car he hasn't seen before was too domineering, and the little waiter was a little frightened. After struggling for a long time, he thinks it's better not to see it. People who drive this kind of car are very rich, and he was a little waiter, but he didn't dare to offend. Fortunately, the waiter didn't have to worry for long. Harry and Tiny Tim pushed the door to get off and walked towards the fast food restaurant. But the situation was even more shocking. Rich people who drive luxury cars come to their bottom fast food restaurants to eat. Are you kidding? Looking at Harry's well-dressed clothes, they know it must be a top brand. Looking at Tiny Tim's 2.5 meters tall, the proper bodyguard couldn't run. In such a situation, the little waiter was so scared that his legs softened. Harry walked to him and didn't dare to say hello. Fortunately, the professional reaction made him subconsciously push the door open. He held for a long time before stuttering and asked, please excuse me, the two for dinner? Facing such rich people as Harry, the little waiters were more elegant if they were ordinary customers who usually come to dinner. That was a voice roar in the past. Come to eat? How many? Harry nodded and said to the waiter, yes, thank you. Because the waiter helped to open the door, Harry was polite. Then he went in with Tiny Tim, leaving the waiter standing at the door in a daze. He murmured, so rich people are so polite? Because some of the rich men were ignorant all day and bully people everywhere, which makes the common people at the bottom feel that the rich people, especially the man, are not easy to get along with. He will have to beat and curse people. And Harry, with this kind of good talk, was very kind to people, and that was rare. The fast food restaurant was run by a couple. They couldn't afford to hire a chef in a small shop like this. This was to say the boss was the chef himself, and the boss' wife was in charge of the account. At most, they hired 2 waiters to solicit guests and deliver food. Just now, Harry's car was parked outside. The landlady also saw it. She was also surprised. She thought that there was a rich man who stopped here temporarily. It was understandable that the waiter at the door didn't dare to drive people away. Nowadays, no one can offend the rich. Who would have thought that this was not the cause at all? People came to their shop to eat. When Harry came in with Tiny Tim, the landlady almost dropped the computer on the floor. Seeing Tiny Tim's ferocious appearance, the landlady thought that they were not here to eat, but to collect debts. In her heart, she was still wondering if the family has so much high loans Was the husband carrying his own three? Just as the boss's wife was thinking wildly, she opened her brain to the moon. Harry found a clean table and asked, Madame, where's your menu? Can I take a look and order? Oh, I'm sorry, what? The proprietress was in a daze. Was he really here for dinner? She hasn't seen this in a long time, and how can a rich man eat such a low-grade snack? Harry saw the landlady's motionless appearance, almost thought it was a wax figure. Now there were many restaurants with unique ideas. Making a wax figure like a real person to let people see them is a funny idea. Oh, I'm in a hurry. Can I order, please? Cried Harry. After a pause, the landlady quickly replied, Oh, well, guess just a moment. I'll show you the menu, she said hurriedly. Then she took out a greasy menu and gave it to Harry. The proprietress rubbed her hands and said, I'm sorry to make you laugh, but it's mainly because of our small shop serves ordinary people. This is the first time for a rich person like you to serve. Harry took the menu and looked at it. There was not very many kinds of items to choose from. Generally, there were only one or two special dishes for home cooking. What Harry asked for was fast serving and large quantity. He ordered a few simple dishes and returned to the menu to the landlady. I'll order 3 portions of these dishes, he said, and the landlady thought that Harry was worried that they were short of food here. Then she said with a smile, well, you could be rest assured that these dishes in our shop are very affordable, and we promise to make sure you enjoy it. In her heart, she added a word that didn't make any sense, and no one dares to say anything, so they just sat there. Besides, he has a bodyguard who scares people to death. After hearing the explanation from the landlady, Harry knew that he didn't really understand what she meant. Harry and Tiny Tim both laughed. What was the difference is that Harry laughed happily, while Tiny Tim laughed awkwardly. Madame, I'm not satisfied with the ordinary amount of food I'm taking in. That's why I'm giving you 3 times the amount. Otherwise, it's not enough, Harry explained. Tiny Tim also said with a simple smile, I see that you have free rice on the wall. I don't think it's suitable for me. Harry laughed more loudly. Oh my God, free rice. I'm afraid you'll lose money. I'd better calculate it accordingly to the price. I'll pay you 3 times the price for 3 times the amount of food. Don't worry, it couldn't lose you. The landlady just reflected that what Harry said was the same thing. She quietly looked at Tiny Tim's exaggerated figure. She couldn't help swallow a mouthful of foam. Her heart said, My God, why don't I think of it just now? Thanks to the rich people, they don't care about these petty profits. Otherwise, the pot of free rice was not enough. This was a small business. It really makes Tiny Tim eat freely and makes his own boss cry. I guess you're so kind-hearted. I'm really sorry. Would you like a drink or not? I'll give you a free beer. Landlady, a little embarrassed, said. Free rice and their shop business was bleak. Attract customers to launch a discount who thought the first guest came to meet the big stomach king. However, the discount was very clearly written and pasted on the wall. It's hard to say if it was given to others. Fortunately, Harry had a good character and was rich. He didn't care about this thing. No more wine. Go and tell the chef to cook. I'll have something else to do later. Harry waved his hand. Well, just a moment. I'll serve you right away. The landlady ran back to the kitchen with gratitude. There were a few customers in the store. When Harry came in, the people who had eaten there had already checked out. Not only Harry was left, when the boss of the back kitchen hears what would happen in front of him, he was also careful to cook for Harry. He had been running a restaurant for so many years, but it's the first time that he meets a rich guest like Harry. He shows his strength to make more delicious dishes than usual. Unfortunately, no matter how to play, the foundation was here. The craftsmanship was not so good. In the end, it can only be regarded as unsatisfactory. At most, it was slightly better than what he usually does. But Harry and Tiny Tim were not hypocritical people. They can eat enough. Harry lived a poor life before. When he picked up rubbish all day, what rotten things he didn't eat. Bear butcher, not to mention, in order to avoid the pursuit of his enemies, he lived in anonymity in the construction site and ate the worst food. Now they both have a better life, but not to the point that they couldn't eat ordinary food. After Harry's meal was served, Tiny Tim directly started the fury mode. A gust of wind volume remnant cloud woofed down. Suspected with bowel-containing rice to eat too troublesome, simply directly put the pot over. The landlady had never seen such a way of eating. She was very scared that she could hardly urinate. The boss of the back kitchen also ran out curiously, looking at Tiny Tim's heroic way of eating. His eyes were straight out. The two little waiters in the shop had been huddled in the corner, holding each other and shaking. Hi, are they really rich? Like, it's just like the reincarnation of a starving ghost. It's really scary. Harry was okay. His long-term life had made him very elegant. Unfortunately, no matter how elegant he would be destroyed in front of a bear butcher. Looking at Tiny Tim's gobbling, even Harry had a big appetite and ate an extra bowl of rice. The landlady couldn't stand any longer. She held a chair and sat down slowly. If she didn't sit down, her legs would give out. As soon as she sat down, she patted her chest. Fortunately, the guests were very reasonable and didn't have to have rice for free. Otherwise, the bottomless way of eating, how many of his shop would not have enough to fill in? A pot of rice to eat clean, Tiny Tim's stomach did not see the rise. Putting the pot heavily on the table, Tiny Tim yelled, "Is there any more? Another pot, please." Oof. The landlady, who had just drank a mouthful of water, was ready to be shocked immediately and sprayed it out. Harry was not surprised at all. Tiny Tim had seen this appetite for a long time. Then he said with a smile, "Madame, if you have something well done, can you, please send it our way? Don't be afraid of it." Facing Harry reluctantly, he smiled and turned to shrink in the corner of the two waiters, shouting, "Did you not hear the customer's request? You not hear the kitchen pot out? Oh, good, good, yes, yes." The two waiters got up and ran to the kitchen. Before long, a pot of the hot rice was brought to Bear Butcher. "Thank you," Tiny Tim said. The two waiters were so scared. Not only did it look like a giant, but it also had a big mouth like a hippo and two eyes like a lantern. They scared the two little waiters who didn't see much of the world, and they ran straight to the toilet. And they ran fast. If they slowed down, his trousers would be soaked through. "All right, well, I'll continue to eat," Tiny Tim said. Harry had already finished eating. At this time, he puts down his chopsticks and was sending a message to Randy with his mobile phone. "Have you arrived yet?" "Well, I'll come to you. I'll send you a seat. You can come directly." Randy sent a location message. Harry opened it and saw that it was in the center of Florida, not far from the place where they were shopping just now. No wonder Randy heard about his position just now, and he had to pull himself to the past. It turned out that he was nearby. Harry was very strange in his heart. He was so mysterious that he didn't know what it was. After waiting for a while, Tiny Tim finally put down his second rice pot, took another pot of soup, and drank it completely. Then he was breathing out a long breath and said, "I'm full. It's been a long time since I had such a good meal." Harry said with a smile, "How? You usually don't eat this good?" Tiny Tim said with a smile, "Now, the food provided by the sir is good. It definitely is different. It's all the same as before. I miss this very much, though." In the past, when he was not satisfied, Tiny Tim was able to eat such a meal in a restaurant, which was already a luxury meal. Harry had no choice but to smile. "I understand. In fact, I almost like it too. I'm going to see what kind of medicine Randy is selling in the gourd." He settled the account with the owner's wife of the restaurant. Because of the fear, Harry especially gave them $200 more. When the two little waiters came back, they seemed different, as if they had been shaken by fear and just only gotten themselves back together. Walking out of the restaurant, Harry saw several people in front of this car taking pictures with the mobile phones. There were two men and one woman. The man was in charge of photography. The woman was well dressed, wearing makeup and leaning against Harry's car to make a pose. As soon as Tiny Tim glared, he was ready to drive people out. "My employer's car is worth millions. It's not easy for people to get close to it, let alone take photos." Harry raised his hand to stop Tiny Tim and sat on the back seat of the e-bike to see what these people were doing. After observing for a moment, Harry understood. This woman was an influencer of some kind and was using his car for a small photo shoot. Usually, this kind of thing was done with rental cars or sets and not others' property on the street. The woman used Harry's car to gather clicks and attention. However, most of these influencer types were pretentious and fake. Few of them really had the money to shoot with their own luxury cars. A few actually had the wealth to do their own car, but they are few and far in between. Harry didn't mind if someone uses his own car to shoot this kind of video. Anyway, it's just using the car as the background. This didn't provoke or offend Harry. Why should he drive people away? The most important thing was that the girl who was in front of Harry was actually quite attractive. As long as they were around his car, why shouldn't he stay and watch? The woman was mainly responsible for performing in front of the stage, while the two men were responsible for script, operation, and shooting. It's a small studio, and there are more than 300,000 fans. Relying on the high face value and sexy bodies of online celebrities, the number of fans were still rising. When it breaks through 500,000, they can make some serious money. Therefore, the small team of three, which was now in the rising stage of entrepreneurship, was in time of a financial constraints. They were all ordinary people. They could barely afford their own cars, let alone rent a luxury car like Harry's. They have to pay attention to the variety of this kind of rich video. Just shooting luxury cars, the audience will be tired sooner or later. Luxury houses and luxury goods were indispensable. For several days, the main photographer had a headache and couldn't find any better material. As a result, he saw Harry's VTR supercross country car parked in front of the small restaurant on the street today. They didn't have to be rich in their business to understand that this is a very rich car. Therefore, when they saw Harry's car, they were directly shocked. Flying Truff, isn't this the limited edition of VTR? It's true. I'm lucky today. It's a super luxury car worth 40 million. What? 40 million? No matter how much it cost, we couldn't afford it anyway. Yeah. What are you waiting for? Shoot now. Well, we have to hurry. The car owner could come back at any moment. It's a rare opportunity. We can't miss it. Hurry up. Paula, take off your clothes and we're going to get ready to record. Paula was the female actress. Usually when they were out, she always had something fashionable and revealing under her clothes. For opportunities like this, they had to be prepared. In order to not attract attention when they don't meet the new shooting material, they always have this thin coat on the outside. Paula immediately took off her clothes and revealed the special costumes for the show. The other two men were responsible for shooting and directing. Taking advantage of the host that was not there, they shot a few on the go, when they would go back to edit slowly and finally spread to the internet. This model was called Paula. Her figure was very hot and her facial value was medium, not too amazing. But now the small video function was too powerful. Even an old woman could be transformed into a beautiful girl. What's more, Paula was beautiful. After the systematic beauty effect, what the audience could see was an amazing beauty. Harry sat watching with relish, did not expect to see this kind of live performance, though it was quite interesting. It's a pity that these three people soon finished shooting the materials they needed and were ready to leave. Harry was just starting to enjoy the show. He was a little disappointed. Considering that Randy was still waiting for him, he had no good intentions to ask the people to continue to perform. Who would have thought the man in charge of the guidance of the three turned to see Harry sitting in the back of his electric car and immediately glared. What are you doing? How can you just sit in someone else's car? What what if what if you break it down? Harry was confused. He looked at the humble electric car under his buttocks. It's estimated that he had been riding it for many years, or it was a second-hand car. He thought that no one would want to put it in the garbage, and he was worried that it would be broken. Paula, who was also leaning on his other car, was also scared and yelled, "Big man over there, you've run out of the air in the car tires. Please stand up for me." Harry couldn't laugh or cry. You're really good. You're allowed to take videos of other people's cars, and we're not allowed to ride on your electric car? What's the matter with us borrowing a car to shoot videos? What's the matter with you? Mind your own business. The man smiled. We've met a couple of fools. Blind to such a big man for nothing in the end. People who play small videos have more knowledge. Tiny Tim's appearance frightens the people in the small restaurant, but it didn't frighten the three people in front of him. Not only did he scare him, but he took Tiny Tim as a fool. I had a good feeling about you, but now it's gone. It's really disappointing, Harry sighed. Well, I like it. We have more than 300,000 fans. Don't think that you can make it disappear. 300,000 fans. So many, Harry sniffed. Then he turned to Tiny Tim and said, Let's go. Don't talk nonsense to them. It's boring. So he took out the car keys and pressed once. The VTR super sports car that Paula was leaning on suddenly started. The car lamp still flashed, and all of a sudden, Paula and them were forced to back up. She thought that they were passerbys, and they were here to watch the excitement. Who would have thought that they were the owners of this luxury car? This was worth tens of millions, and it was a super luxury car. There was no other of its kind in the whole of the U.S. Paul and the others immediately trembled with fright. On the internet, the small videos they shot were all kinds of showing off their wealth, but they were all fake, just a few hanging wires on a set most times. In the eyes of netizens who didn't know the truth, they were rich people. In fact, they were nothing. Harry standing in front of them was the real deal. Harry has already put out the real image, and Tiny Tim was not polite to these people. He walked over with a ferocious smile, the big hand, the little body of Paula was thrown aside. Get out of here. My sir's car is not something you can touch. You can afford to buy the wheels on this thing. Paula dared not to resist. She looked at Tiny Tim, and she was shaking, and she opens the door. When the VTR Super Off-Road vehicle left, the three of them trembled and finally recovered. My God, I just ran into a big man. Yeah, that's so frightening. I almost offended people. Fortunately, they didn't care about us. I really envy the rich people. They can drive luxury cars and live in the luxury houses all day. It's hard for us to run all over the street against the sun in order to earn some money. For a long time, they were quiet. Paula suddenly yelled. The other two companions shivered. What's the matter? I just reflected that I didn't leave my contact information just now. Paula said. What do you want? What a good chance to meet such a rich man. I let him go. It's useless. Just now she was afraid, but she forgot to please Harry. He said that the young rich man just watched you perform for a long time. Were they interested in you, or were you positive they would take you away? I wouldn't grasp such a good opportunity. It's really stupid. Two companions suddenly realized and sniffed. You could save it. He probably has enough women around him. I doubt he'd take you anywhere. Well, how do you know if he couldn't see it? I've been performing for such a long time. Couldn't they explain the situation? Paula retorts. Ha! Maybe I think you're too coquettish. Just enjoy your coquettish energy. The companion sneered. Paula was in a hurry. Well, you dare to say that to me. I work all day and I have to satisfy you two when I get back at night. Now you dare to say that to me? Then don't touch me tonight. Do it by yourself. Harry, according to Randy, sent to the positioning of the past and finally met in front of a building. Come on, what am I supposed to do here? Harry asked after getting out of the car. Randy stretched out his neck and saw that Tiny Tim was the one who stopped the car. He laughed. You sent June away? I thought June would not agree. Don't interrupt. What are you up to? Harry asked impatiently. Hey. Randy laughed obscenely. Looking around, he whispered, You know where this is? Harry looked up and rolled his eyes. How can I know if you don't say it? It's fun here. It's our paradise for Florida men. Randy's smile became more and more obscene. Harry understood that there must be a high-end club that provides special services for the rich. His heart immediately became funny and angry. Randy was so mysterious that he wanted to call Harry to play in such a place for a long time. He didn't have a good way. You've been with Millie all day, and you still have time to come here to do this? Randy said bitterly. Oh, Harry, you don't know. Brother, I'm bitter. Harry sneered. You're kidding me. No, I'm really bitter. Millie is just too strict. I couldn't do this, or I'd just sit there. I can only stay with her all day. Who could bear it after a long time? I'm a rich man. I have to enjoy my life, right? Randy has his own words. Do you have any more reason? Oh, don't worry about it. Anyway, we're all here. Let's have fun together. No. Harry flatly refused. I'm kidding. There's so many gorgeous beauties around. Why do you come to such a place to fool around? Isn't it fragrant at home? Harry, come on. You must have never been in such a place, right? Believe me, you'll never forget it if you experience it once, Randy said. Harry couldn't wipe his face away. To tell you the truth, he hasn't been to this kind of occasion. He just hears some anecdotes. He doesn't understand why it would be so attractive. It's just a lot of patterns, and Harry was not very interested. Anyway, no matter how many platforms there were, it's just a shivering thing. Randy was worried when he saw that Harry didn't go in. He was in charge of Millie all day, and the freshness faded after a long time. Although two people's feelings were not less, he is a man. Finally, Millie seized the opportunity to stay at home for a while, but Randy was overjoyed. What a good opportunity it was. If he didn't take advantage of this time to have fun, it would be thunderous. But it's no fun to come to this place alone. If you call someone else, Harvey was recovering from his wounds, so he couldn't come there. Besides, the guy was an infatuated seed. He puts his heart on Carol, and he won't come to such a place. The only thing left was Harry, but there was also a problem. There was too many beauties around Harry. Randy can only coax and cheat people first. Okay, you don't want to play here? So stay with me, brother. You couldn't be so ungrateful. Randy pleaded. Harry could see that this guy's iron heart is to go and play. Also, not good to refuse. Anyway, when it was their own go in to see it, he nodded and said, "Well, I guess." Randy convinced him. "I mean, if you want to play and find some young models, you could take them out yourself. Why did you have to come here?" When Randy saw that Harry agreed, he was excited. "You don't understand. There are all kinds of things in it. You can provide whatever you want," Harry said with disdain. "What else can you do with this kind of thing? Something more than straightforward. What's the trick?" Harry didn't know, so he didn't understand it. But Randy didn't come for once. It was a pity that since he was catching up with Millie, he had no chance to enjoy the taste of paradise here. Randy, embracing Harry's shoulder, said as he walked, "This building has more than 80 floors. It's full of such magical places. There are all kinds of things to play in. I couldn't think of anything that couldn't be done here." "Oh, what are they?" Harry said. Randy said, "That's too much. I couldn't even introduce it. But the most interesting thing is the scene simulation." Harry was a little confused. What kind of scene simulation was it? He didn't understand. "What do you mean?" he asked. Randy squeezed his eyes and said, "For example, some people miss their school days, the beautiful memories of uncomplicated times, and their first love. There is a special layer to simulate the scene of their school days." Harry was very surprised. He looked at Randy with surprise and asked, "Can you still play like this?" "That's for sure, but you don't have to think about it too well. Harry, it's just for people's enjoyment. Don't take it seriously. As long as you give enough money, you are the god in this building. You could do whatever you want." Harry was really satisfied. He had to admit that Randy had little knowledge. He didn't expect that there was a place where he could invent his desire to play in Florida. After entering the building and walking into the front hall, Harry found that there was no men except for the guests. All the staff were female, and they were all good-looking, tall and well-proportioned with delicate faces. It was just like a stewardess model to jump out at random, and the temperament was even better. It was obvious that they had been trained strictly. Randy came in with Harry and was immediately greeted by the staff. Randy took out a card from his pocket and shook it, the smiles of the staff widening, and they were nicer to him than they already were. She bent down and stretched out her hand and said, "Two distinguished guests, please come here." Then she took Harry to a luxurious and spacious private room. After asking them to sit down, the service staff bowed out of the room and gently closed the door. Harry didn't understand and asked, "Just now, you took out the card for what? Are we here to play?" Randy said with a smile, "Of course not. This is just a waiting area. Someone will introduce the project to us later. What kind of game do you want to play, Harry? Just listen to the introduction." Harry didn't know what he wanted to play. Then he waved his hand and said, "This is my first time here. I don't know what to play. You could do it yourself." "Don't be so boring. Don't knock it till you try it," Harry inquired. "I'd like to know what kind of project you're talking about." Randy immediately said, "I haven't been here for a long time. It's said that the scene simulation of biochemical crisis had been launched here recently. Today, we have to have a good experience." Harry was stunned and awed. "I didn't expect that you would have such an interesting taste. Biochemical crisis, huh?" Randy smiled and said nothing. Just a moment later, a tall beauty came in through the door. When she saw Randy, she was surprised and said, "Mr. Banner, you're here. I haven't seen you for a long time. I thought you forgot about me, Mr. Banner." Then she looked at Randy with sad eyes, as if she were looking at a heartbreaker. Harry was dumbfounded, thinking that Randy seemed to be a frequent visitor here. The woman talking to Randy was wearing a badge with her name engraved on it. As for whether it was her real name, Harry thought it was unlikely. The woman's position was not low. She was actually the president of the company. After greeting Randy, Andy looked at Harry. Randy then introduced, "This is my friend, Mr. Parker." "Hello, Mr. Parker. How are you? Is this your first time here?" Harry nodded and said with a smile, "Yes, Randy dragged me out here today." The woman who worked here was not the manager, was not born with a delicate heart. In a word, Candy could judge that Harry was not a small man. She knew she had to show equal or more respect to Harry than she showed Randy. Randy was the heir of the Banner family and the top rich man. Now there was Harry, who was a higher class than Randy, which piqued Candy's mind. What they needed most was to get to know more important people, especially those whose clients were from the upper class. In the past, Candy tried her best to win over Randy, but now she was impressed by Harry, so she had to wait on her best opportunity. Randy introduced Harry to Candy. Although he didn't say much, Randy also revealed a lot of information. After all, there was not many people in the world who could call him brother. Then he said to Harry, "Harry, this is Candy. There are 4 executives of Paradise. Candy is one of them. There is no boss here, only shareholders. The 4 presidents are the top management here." Randy brought Harry to this place that had no specific name, and ordinary people didn't know that such a place existed. People who knew this place called it Paradise, as it was said that Paradise was full of dreams. It was a wonderful fairyland. It was similar to this place, and it was even better. After all, it was all old drivers who came here to play. It didn't matter whether they had a name or not. What mattered was the connotation. "Harry, you don't know much about us since this is your first time here. I have the project Alas here. You can have a look first," said Candy. Her voice was very soft and beautiful, just like the moonlight, which made people feel bright and comfortable. When Harry took over the brochure, he still thought that there were 4 executives here. Were they all named according to everyone's characteristics? Putting aside these associations, Harry opened the brochure and read it. And it didn't matter. It was an eye-opener. Although he had already knew that there were so many ways to play here, Harry was still shocked by the introduction on the front page. What could be provided here was not only the play method of scene simulation, but also other popular projects. Although Harry had never experienced it personally, he wasn't sure of how immersive the experience was. But as Randy said, the most attractive thing here was that the scene simulation, because the whole brochure focused on this. In addition to what Randy said just now, they could simulate the school scene. Other types were amazing, such as the biochemical crisis series that Randy wanted to play today. Staff here dressed up as zombies, while some of them played the role of survivors, but all of them were women without exception. As long as the customers go in, it was absolutely thrilling and exciting, and there were many ways to play. You could experience the warm interaction and survival with the survivors, or you could directly control the zombies to do as you please. It depended on your taste. Some played the role of the emperor, entering a harem and experienced the joys of royalty. 6 courtyards and 72 concubines, plus a pool of wine and a forest with plenty of food to hunt for, and so on. All kinds of licentious play methods could make people feel like they were ascending to heaven. There were also original tribal scenes. Customers could play the leader of an original tribe after entering. Of course, the tribe was full of women, except for customers. This must have been exciting because in primitive times, people didn't wear clothes. They used leaves to cover themselves. It was conceivable that all women in the tribe wore leaf skirts and danced around the fire. Looking at the brochure, there were hundreds of scenes, and Harry immediately admired them. Amazingly, this kind of special service had so many immersive experiences to roleplay in. He didn't know who thought of it. Randy saw that Harry's eyes were wide open, and he asked with a smile, "Harry, how are you? Just looking at the introduction. Are you ready to get started?" Harry put down the brochure and nodded. "To tell you the truth, I really want to go in and have a look. I have to admit that the designers here are really talented. How can an old driver come up with such a wonderful way to roleplay?" Candy said with a smile, "Mr. Parker, you're wrong. The designer of Paradise was not an old driver, but a young prodigy." Harry was surprised. "That's impossible. Such variety? How could he come up with such a large category?" Randy said with a smile, "Harry, you don't understand. Only men who have never tasted the taste of women can have such a rich imagination. When you experience this, there will be no mystery. You'll understand." After thinking about it, Harry figured that Randy's theory was actually right. Taking himself as an example, he really had a lot of illusions about this aspect all day long. After one experiences something, it's gone. Harry then asked, "Whose industry was it? It seemed that it's been operating for a long time, hasn't it?" Randy said, "In fact, there is no boss or board of directors here. In the beginning, it was run by several young people from the capital. Later, when they got tired of it, they transferred it to shareholders." "How can there be no boss?" "Because after the transfer, a lot of people took over. After the division of shares, none of them was dominant, and all of them were very equal. So now that the shareholders only take dividends and do not participate in the management aspect, and the operation is handed over to the four presidents. Harry understood that the so-called paradise in the past was not the same as it was now, and what it provided was nothing more than ordinary projects. After the earliest founders lost their interest in this place, many people, in order to please these young and old people from the capital, began to buy it under the name of giving gifts. After some changes, it had become what it is now, especially after the change of role-playing method and the appearance of new scene simulation. The so-called paradise had become a paradise for men. It's said that long before I came to Florida, there was a club here, from a club that only occupied the lower floors to a paradise that now monopolizes the whole building. Candy's four presidents have contributed a lot. Randy praised. Mr. Banner, you have been praised. How could you be so powerful? We would have been unable to work here without Mr. Banner's protection these years. Her face was as soft as her voice. Harry pointed to Randy and said with a smile, It turns out that you have a share in it too. For no reason, Harry didn't think Randy would be so interested here. There must be a relationship of interest. As a result, Harry guessed right, and Randy was also one of the shareholders here. Randy accompanied him with a smile. At that time, he didn't take it seriously. He just took it as an investment. Who would have thought that the business would get better over time? Now it was almost becoming a holy land for old managers. Harry sighed. Does your family know about this place? Randy almost jumped up in fright. Harry, don't let Millie know, or she will really kill me. Harry immediately smiled, thinking that Millie was really Randy's nemesis. Harry pondered that Randy should be passive. Millie, a woman, could be a queen when she entered. If they added the whip candle, Randy would be stimulated. Shaking his head and putting aside these messy ideas, Harry said, Okay, I've seen all the things I should see. Don't you want to play? Go quickly, I'll wait here. Although Harry was also curious about how exciting it was to play this kind of near-real scene simulation, Harry could restrain himself. The most important thing was that there were too many beauties in his own family, and the Livingston family was still busy. Now, you really don't want to play. My own words are so boring, Randy lamented. Unfortunately, no matter how Randy persuaded him, Harry was not ready to play. In the end, Randy had no choice but to go to his biochemical crisis project alone. He had to have fun while Millie was away, or else he wouldn't have been able to come here. The reason why Harry flatly refused Harry's invitation was that the scene simulation he was going to wasn't interesting to Harry. He had different tastes. If he went with him, maybe he would give the whole family a psychological shadow, which would affect the harmony and perfection of his future life. It was not worth the loss. Well, since you don't want to go, I don't want to. Candy, you stay here and accompany me. You must serve me, or you will be punished, Randy said. Randy's command made Candy stare blankly at him. Harry, a noble guest, had not been seen for a long time. Candy thought to herself, We have been operating here for a long time, and now we have encountered some bottlenecks in the development. That is, the customers have formed a fixed scale, and the performance was not good. Harry's a stranger. If you flatter him, maybe he'll bring more new customers. Four executives also got performance dividends. The more they worked, the more money they got. If they met someone who was generous, their tips and gifts were never in small amounts. Andy was satisfied with Randy's considerate service and understanding. Randy sent her luxurious jewelry and clothes from time to time. For Randy, money was never an issue. He threw it away without blinking. Now there was Harry, which was a double surprise for Candy. Harry's status was higher than Randy's, not to mention the money. Candy could see that Harry was also the kind of person who looked at money like dirt. If Candy played her cards right, she would be financially set for life. In fact, women in this line of work were quite miserable. They were different from those who served the low-end group. After earning a sum of money, they could go back to their hometown and find an honest man to marry. Candy, who served the upper class, looked very luxurious in gold and silver on the surface. In fact, they had a bad side. As the saying goes, it was hard to go from extravagance to thrift. After seeing the luxurious life and enjoyment at the top, few people were willing to find an honest man to live life with little money for the rest of their life. What was more tragic was that they did not belong to rich families. If they wanted to marry the man of a rich family, it was a luxury to be an outsider, and there was no good result. As a result, Candy and the other women here needed to seize the time to earn enough money to make the rest of their lives comfortable. When age caught up to them, they'd be sure not to spend the rest of their lives on the street. All of these women, cruel practical experiences based on the lessons of predecessors. Candy, as the president here, was a little better. Her income was higher than of ordinary members. She made a lot of money without sacrificing too much. But people always wanted a better life and they didn't dislike their own money. The people that Candy entertained here all day long were rich or extravagant. After a long time of contact, people could no longer live a simple life. She was also looking forward to buying a manor in Florida when she retired and experienced the life of a lady. As for family and marriage, people like her could only go along with her fate. Whether it was or not, they will not expect too much. At this time, Randy wanted to experience a scene simulation of his own choice, but Harry didn't go. For Candy, it was just a chance to fall from the sky. If one didn't grasp it, one would be struck by thunder and lightning. Just because she could rely on Randy, who was the first young person in Florida, many people were envious of her. Now, with Harry's friendship in the mix, all the women in paradise were envious and waited to watch everything unfold. Even when she patted the towering weapon, she said, "Don't worry, Mr. Banner. Mr. Parker is here, and we will guarantee that he will be served very comfortably." Randy's expression was ruthless, and suddenly he pulled down her face. "What's the matter? You're meeting new people and forgetting old people? Are you ready to leave me now that you have Harry?" Candy shivered with fright. "No, Mr. Banner, I don't mean that." Randy couldn't hold back any longer and laughed. "I'm teasing you. You're so scared that your face twitches. It's fun. Harry must wait for me." Then he turned and left. Only Candy was in a cold sweat. They all said that Randy was moody. At that moment, she really thought Randy was angry. Candy was worried that she didn't do enough to please Harry, and she managed to offend Randy, too. She could lose everything if she made another mistake. Harry sat on the sofa and watched a good play. He said with a smile, "Don't worry, Randy was just joking. The guy didn't have a good model all day." "Mr. Parker, thank you for comforting me." Candy didn't expect that Harry was a very gentle person. At the beginning, when Brandy asked her to entertain Harry, she was really afraid of a bad-tempered man. Now, after a bit of panic, Candy realized that Harry was a noble man. After a while, Candy asked, "Mr. Parker, don't you really want to experience it? We have all kinds of girls here, and each of them have unique skills, so they can meet any of your requirements." Harry shook his head. "No, I'm really not interested." Seeing that Harry was very resolute, in a word, the men who came here couldn't hold on, especially after learning about the characteristics of this place. The man, who was not a monkey, was eager to get on the horse immediately. However, Harry was of higher status. Candy couldn't drag and pull. After turning her eyes, she decided to grind it slowly. If she couldn't grind Harry's patience, she could still achieve her goal. Before that, she had to try to see if Harry was too shy because he was new here. She quietly pulled his low collar down again and looked at Harry with enchanting eyes and asked, "Mr. Parker, you don't want to play here, so let's just wait here, okay?" Harry once again flatly refused. "No, I'm not interested in you." In other words, Candy's appearance was still very attractive. Her tall figure was full, and her lordosis and kyphosis were the perfect body shape for women, and her appearance also belonged to that of a kind of attractive type. She did not use any kind of vulgar heavy makeup to dress up. She had soft but bold makeup that showed people that she belonged to the first class. Harry had no appetite to eat because Harry had already seen that Candy had an affair with Randy. He didn't want to follow Randy's pursuits. Harry was very principled about this kind of thing. What belonged to him was his own. He preferred his own meals and didn't like to share. To be honest, Harry was not at ease staying in a room with such a woman who had taken the initiative to flatter him. Harry didn't know how long it would take Randy to finish his simulation. Harry said to Candy, "It's boring to stay here. Why don't you take me out for a visit?" Although Harry didn't want to be here, he was still curious. It was an art to think of so many ways to roleplay. What was the scene simulation like? Harry still wanted to see it with his own eyes. But what he didn't know was that the simulation scenes were only open to visitors who went in to roleplay, and outsiders couldn't visit them. It was also easy to understand. After all, few people want to be as busy as the monkeys in the zoo when they were doing their own business, unless they were psychopathic. But it also depended on who requested it first. For Candy, she couldn't flatter Harry. She was afraid that he did ask. As long as he had a demand, she had to meet it. After listening to Harry's words, Candy didn't even hesitate. She immediately nodded and agreed. Okay, Mr. Parker, how about I show you some scenes without guests first? Candy knew the rules. She couldn't just take Harry anywhere. She had to respect the privacy of the guest. If Harry wanted to go to a scene where a guest was role-playing, he couldn't go there. So she offered Harry what she could do. Harry was not the kind of pervert who liked to watch others do things. He nodded happily, but still doubted. Don't you girls have to rest when you're not entertaining any guests? Since it was a simulated scene, it was not real. It was like a theater. When they were guests, actors would perform on the stage. When there was no guests, there was no performance. Candy said with a smile, Of course we have to rest. Girls are not robots that don't need rest. Which scenes do you want to visit? Harry was embarrassed and said, Is it too much trouble for you? Candy quickly shook her head and said, No, it's no trouble. Mr. Parker is a distinguished guest. It's too late for us to entertain him, so our requirements here are very strict. When girls aren't entertaining guests, they're rehearsing. Harry was immediately more respectful of the dedication to the work. No wonder it was so successful. Which scene would you like to visit first, Mr. Parker? Candy asked again. This made Harry a little hesitant. He was very curious about the hundreds of scenes. He couldn't decide which one to try first. So he said, Wherever. You could take me to the nearest one first. Candy nodded. Okay, Mr. Parker, please come with me. She escorted Harry out of the room, through the corridor to an elevator door. Harry was in the building for quite a while now, but he didn't see any ordinary people. He had only met a few of the staff members. Seeing Harry's puzzled appearance, Candy wanted to clear his doubts. While walking, she explained, Our reception for guests is divided into different regions. Ordinary guests are mostly concentrated in the lower level. Distinguished guests, like Mr. Parker, you're treated in separate areas, so that's why you don't see ordinary people here. Of course, it's also to protect the privacy of the guest. After all, many people who come here don't want to meet people they know. Harry understood. People come here to experience all kinds of illicit scenarios. But some people had unique tastes and didn't want others to know, so privacy was very important. After taking the elevator with Candy, she swiped the card on the control panel of the elevator and then entered some instructions. Then she said to Harry again, Let's go to the scene simulation on the upper layer first. It's a primitive, tribal simulation. If you're interested in it, Mr. Parker, you can roleplay there. Candy also winked at Harry playfully. Harry smiled and shook his head. He just wanted to visit and was not ready to do anything else. All the different scenarios in Paradise inspired Harry. This kind of scene simulation wasn't just used to release passion. It could be used on a much larger scale. It could be much more fun. The tourism development on Moon Island was in full swing now. Harry thought that if he also introduced this kind of scene simulation, it might be aroused for more tourists' interest. But now it was just a little bit of inspiration, so Harry wanted to visit in person to see what was going on here. When the elevator rose to the upper floor and the door opened, Harry couldn't believe his eyes. He was enamored by how advanced the technology was here. The entire floor was connected to form a vast space. The high ceiling had a pseudo-realistic sky projected on it that changed from night to day. The ground was moist with soft grass and blooming flowers. At a distance, the trees planted indoors were very dense. There were many animals active in it. A scene full of vitality. The load-bearing pillars standing on the floor were all dressed as totem pillars directed to the sky, which did not look abrupt at all. All of this made Harry sigh. Ugh, you're really making a lot of money here to be able to create all this. Harry wondered about the amount of money that must have gone into building this simulation and the amount needed to maintain it. He was now curious about how they made profits here, so he asked, If it's convenient, can you tell me how much the guests need to pay for the services here? Candy replied, It's not a secret. It's not inconvenient at all. If you roleplay here, the price depends on the time. Oh, what exactly is that? Generally speaking, the minimum time is 6 hours of experience. and you need to pay $600,000. For a whole day, that's 24 hours, and the price is $2 million. It's not cheap, but I thought it was 100,000 an hour, Harry said. People came here to release their passion. According to the minimum time standard, 1 hour was $100,000. This place ran a special business even though the price was extremely high. Of course, the prices of those who like to take care of themselves must be higher than this, but the situation was different. They couldn't be compared together. Harry assumed that all the people who came here must have been the richest or the rich. If you role-played once and had a good time, it was a safe bet that you'd want to stay in a simulation for several days. Andy also said to Harry, "In fact, there is no estimated price. The price varies according to how many hours one is in the simulation, and also each scene is priced differently. In addition, the girls here are also of different grades." Harry was speechless. After Candy's careful introduction, found that the price of the original tribal scenes was mid-ranged. There was a higher price of more than 1 million per hour. Just as Harry thought, the people who came here to roleplay were all rich, and they didn't care about the money. They came in every day. Andy told Harry about a rich man who grew to be addicted after he came in and stayed in one of the simulations for a long time. He thought of himself as the emperor and could not tell the truth from reality. He was so fascinated that he stayed in his paradise all day and lived like a drunken man. It was a pity that the consequence of such mischief was that he abandoned his own industrial operation and went bankrupt. Later, he didn't wake up and continued to squander his property here until he consumed every last cent and drove him to the street to beg for his daily bread. From an emperor to a beggar, he couldn't accept his new identity, so he broke down and finally jumped into the sea to his death. After listening to what had happened to the rich man, Harry was filled with emotion and thought that the simulated scenes had both advantages and disadvantages. It was true that many people were addicted to it, but it had become a gold-selling cave. Of course, Harry would not sympathize with these kinds of people and had a bad feeling for Candy. He was not a saint. He had no extra kindness. People were open to participate in the business. They paid for services they wanted, and there was no right or evil. As long as Randy didn't indulge here too much, Harry wouldn't do anything. He couldn't control others. If Randy turned into someone who couldn't distinguish reality from the simulation, Harry wouldn't mind telling Millie to wake him up. Harry spoke to Candy while walking. Not long after, Harry heard the laughter coming from the forest. Harry's eyes followed the laughter. There was an open space in the forest where dozens of primitive straw houses were built in conical shapes. The tents transported you to a different time. However, this was not the most important thing. What made Harry more excited was that there were dozens of beautiful young girls in the primitive tribe. They only used leaves to cover their chest and waist. Other portions were bare. Even their feet were bare. It could be seen that these girls here were carefully selected. None of them were pale or unhealthy. They were healthy and wheat-colored, and their bodies were more symmetrical and powerful. They were also very beautiful. They were full of wild beauty. When the girls saw Harry appear, they all cheered around. "The chief is back. Welcome, chief of the tribe." "Chief, you've been out for a long time. I missed you so much." Harry almost forgot himself and thought that he was the leader of the primitive tribe. The simulation was so realistic that would make a person be completely immersed in it. "Chief, you're here just in time. We just hunted and harvested a wild boar, which we've roasted. Chief, please have a meal." At that time, there was a bonfire, and a whole boar was rolling above the fire roasting on it. Annie didn't stop them, and she didn't feel offended by Harry. Because that was what happened here. Although Harry didn't come here to play, he might have gotten teased. Candy was hoping to get the credit for the fun Harry would have in the simulation. Harry was escorted to the special chair of the chief. This chair was made of rattan. It was very wide, just like the big bed. The frame of the bed was wrapped with branches full of flowers. Harry carefully looked at the flower, which was actually a real flower, not a plastic artificial one. He smelled the flower and was instantly comforted. He noticed he was sitting on a soft, furred white bear skin. He ruffled his fingers through the fur. Harry estimated that the leader's seat was so luxurious that he was worried he would ruin it. This made him a little uncomfortable. Andy came up and said with a smile, "Mr. Parker, just sit down. The original tribal scene has just been completed recently, and you're the first to experience this. Her words made Harry feel a little better. Fortunately, the simulation had only just begun. It didn't make him feel unbearable. As Harry sat in the chief's position, someone offered delicious fruits and freshly baked meat. The food kept coming. Harry ate with primitive utensils. Unexpectedly, it was delicious. It tastes good. It seems so ordinary, yet why is it so special? Harry was surprised. Candy said, Mr. Parker, the scene simulation here is not only for passion, but also for authentic delicacies. Then she forked up a piece of meat and said, for example, this boar roast, although it seems like it's cooked in a very primitive way, we can't. Although the food was very delicious and there was so many beautiful women, Harry was still not ready to stay there. Harry knew he wouldn't be able to control himself if he stayed there any longer. So Harry said goodbye to them and went on to another scene. The next scene was of a harem. It was said that the people found it very difficult to leave this scene. They spent a very long time here. Harry wanted to see what kind of scene would make people not want to leave. As the elevator door opened, on the first floor, a big palace was revealed. Of course, a small space was enough as the guests were here only to enjoy the delicacies of the harem and not to run a real kingdom. As Harry stepped into it, the gate of the palace opened heavily, and there was a continuous voice shouting, "The Emperor has arrived!" Harry walked into the palace. He saw a group of beautiful ladies, dressed in royal attire, bowing down at him. They looked at him with a glimmer in their eyes. Our Lord has arrived. Harry was out of his wits. The fantasy of all men was his reality right now. This was truly an incredible experience. Among these ladies, there were empresses in solemn and luxurious clothes, charming concubines, and beautiful maids. This felt like a dream to Harry. He was sure that 1 or even 2 days were enough to enjoy this hall of heaven. He wanted to be here forever. Even if he spent 1 day with one beauty, a whole year would be required to spend time with all of them. No wonder people spent a long time in this place. This was surely a place to get lost in. When he was in a trance, a group of maids came forward with the crown. Please change your clothes. Harry was stunned. He waved his hand and said, I'm here to take a look. I'm not a customer. The group of young maids looked up at Candy. Candy shook her head. Mr. Parker is our distinguished guest. Just treat him with all your heart. You don't have to follow the rules. Sure. A group of maids bowed and slowly retreated. In order to avoid being carried away like in the primitive tribe just now, Harry said, Please don't bother. You carry on with your work. I'll just have a walk around here. All right, replied the maid. A large group of palace beauties with their maids slowly withdrew from the main hall, which made Harry feel relieved. The atmosphere created here was too real. Whether it was the performance of these women or the scenery around them, people could unconsciously immerse themselves in it. Harry was worried that his resistance was not enough. If he wanted to enjoy it, he would do it without being judged. Mr. Parker, should I show you around the palace? Candy asked. Harry nodded and said, Okay, I'd love to see the scenery there too. Even film cities and movie sets had palaces made, but they were bigger than what Harry was seeing here. They lacked the details and beauty of this palace. After all, the film city made sets of palaces as mere backgrounds. The details of the palace were rarely shown. The main focus was on the performance of the actors and the designer clothes they wore. But it was different here. It was all real. For example, the back garden had precious flowers and delicate plants, which required extensive caring. On the movie sets, fake flowers and plants did the job as the viewers couldn't make out the difference anyway. After roaming around the back garden, Candy took Harry to a yard. Harry's eyes grew with amazement as he opened the gates and walked inside. The whole courtyard had a very wide area of hot springs, including large and small hot springs. There were countless women coming in and out of these springs and baths, and it was a true sight to behold. Harry was only here to have a look, not to participate. How would he know the pleasure of role-playing if he didn't participate? Candy hoped that Harry would become a frequent visitor. Before, in the primitive tribe, the group of beautiful women failed to flatter him, which made Candy think that Harry might not like that style. But that was not a problem. There were hundreds of scenes here. There must have been one that could excite him. In order to draw Harry's attention, she secretly arranged this one. If Harry still wasn't impressed by the main hall, she decided to bring him to the wine pool in the backyard. Harry really couldn't hold it. He was already impacted by everything that had happened in the primitive tribe, and now that he had seen the palace, he was more excited. Harry was not immune. How could one not react? He couldn't help but walk in. In a foggy hot spring, he walked on the winding road paved with warm jade. On both sides of the hot spring pools, beautiful ladies smiled at him. Harry's heart was ready to move. Candy smiled while looking at Harry. No man could resist their temptation here, and Harry was no exception. When Harry finally indulged in it, a group of maids came up and began to undress him. Bang! There was a sudden noise outside the palace gates. Harry immediately washed his face and looked at the door. Seeing Harry's anger, Candy was also nervous. She was annoyed that the company's guards were not intervening. They were entertaining distinguished guests here. How could there be such a noise? Mr. Parker, there might be someone who doesn't know the rules. I'll go out and look into it. Then she turned around and walked toward the door. The sound kept getting louder and louder. Tiny Tim, Harry's bodyguard, yelled, "Go away!" Harry frowned after listening to Tiny Tim's voice and stopped Candy and said, "Let's go out together and see what's going on." Just then, a little maid waiting at the door came and said in a panic, "Miss Candy, it's the King of Hell." All the beauties around were in a panic and mess. "What? Why is he here again? Miss Candy, what should we do?" "I'm so scared," said one of the maids. Harry was a little surprised. He didn't know who was this King of Hell and why the girls were so scared of him. As he walked toward the door, he saw three men standing outside the door with serious expressions on their faces. One of them was Tiny Tim, Harry's bodyguard. His huge body blocked the door. No one could move him away. The other two were the security guards. There was a group of dozen men, led by a middle-aged man. There were several well-built and muscular men that surrounded him. They looked like bodyguards. Seeing the chaos and mess, Harry confronted Tiny Tim and asked, "What's the matter?" Tiny Tim stared at the group of people angrily and said, "These people didn't listen to the instructions of the guards and wanted to break in." Andy was standing beside Harry. She slowly said, "Mr. Leonard, don't you know the rules? Only one guest is allowed to visit the harem scene at a time. Now that Mr. Parker's here, you shouldn't rush in." Leonard looked at Harry and sneered. "Huh, rules? Are you kidding me? How could you apply these rules to me? Everyone else should get out of here since it's my time to roleplay in the harem scene." Tiny Tim was furious. Before he could do anything, Harry raised his hand and stopped him. Harry wanted to hear out Leonard. Without waiting for him to speak, Andy interrupted him and yelled, "Mr. Leonard, don't forget who you are. You are the only one of the shareholders, not the boss, and you cannot do whatever you want here. Mr. Parker is our distinguished guest. Even you can't treat an ordinary guest like this. It will destroy our reputation." "How dare you talk to me like that? You are just a bitch that I hired to manage the place. Bring her over here and let me show her who the boss is." With that, Leonard's bodyguards rushed toward Candy. "No one dare touch her!" Harry yelled and pulled Candy behind him to protect her. Tiny Tim couldn't bear it. He stopped the bodyguards and pushed them back. Leonard said to Harry, "Don't interfere between us. I don't have any problem with you, so you better stay out of this." Just like Candy said, Leonard was one of the shareholders here. People who could invest in here were not ordinary people. They were not only rich, but also powerful. Leonard was not a good person, and he didn't follow the right path. He was an arrogant man and did reckless things. Although it's a little bit more restrained now, it was no different for powerful people and ordinary people. The reason why people were so afraid of him was that he used to abuse people to death. He didn't respect women and treated them like shit. Many women were seriously injured and even lost their lives. Therefore, every time they heard that he was coming, they were afraid that the King of Hell would abuse them and treat them like they're his property. Every time the King of Hell came, they could only bear his wanton actions in silence. But today, this will all come to an end. It was finally time that Leonard pays a price for his sinful deeds. Usually, ordinary guests used to tolerate his arrogant attitude because they couldn't afford to fight with him. But Harry was not the same. He wasn't afraid of anyone. Harry was furious by this invasion of the King of Hell. Candy was angry, but helpless. She thought it was time for him to be punished. Harry was angry and annoyed. He yelled, How dare you talk to me like that? Tiny Tim, take him away and punish him." Tiny Tim snorted coldly. "Yes, sir." Tiny Tim had been impatient for a long time, but he couldn't neglect Harry's command. He immediately walked towards Leonard with a grin on his face. Tiny Tim's fierce appearance was threatening. All the bodyguards were knocked down in one move. Tiny Tim walked toward him. Leonard looked at him and said, "Why do you want to be a bodyguard? Isn't this a big waste of time? Why don't you follow me? I could give you everything you want." "Glory and wealth?" Tiny Tim said with a smile. Tiny Tim was moved. Leonard nodded and said, "Yes, I would give you anything you want, like money, luxury cars, and luxury houses. You might not know who I am, but—" Before he finished speaking, Tiny Tim's fist cut through the air and came roaring and said, "You're a fool." After a loud sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood on the ground. He tried to cover his mouth and laid unconscious on the ground. After a few minutes, Leonard tried to get up and said, How dare you hit me? Do you know who I am?" Tiny Tim grinned, clenched his fist, and said, "Do you really think I'm afraid of you? If you dare to say anything else, I'll beat you again." After listening to those harsh words, Leonard was frightened. Leonard used to be muscular and well-built at an early age, but now he had a big fat belly. He didn't have the strength to fight with Tiny Tim. He looked at his bodyguards and yelled, "Are you all dead? Oh, what are you doing? Come here and fight with him." His bodyguards obediently took a few steps forward, but no one dared to fight with Tiny Tim. They were terrified and felt guilty. Tiny Tim was very strong and powerful. He could easily knock all the bodyguards in one move. But now that Leonard had ordered them, they had to come forward and fight with him. Otherwise, Leonard would punish them to death. After a moment, the bodyguards looked at each other, closed their eyes in despair, and rushed toward Tiny Tim. But the result was clear. As expected, Tiny Tim knocked down all the bodyguards one by one. Within the blink of an eye, all the bodyguards were lying on the ground. Tiny Tim clapped his hands and turned to Harry and said, "Sir, it's done." Harry nodded his head with satisfaction. With a smile, Harry paced slowly toward the King of Hell. Leonard was even afraid to get up. He laid on the ground and didn't even dare to get up. He knew if he made any excuses to try and get up, Tiny Tim would beat him up again. Harry leaned over and looked coldly at him and said, "Now I'll give you two choices. Hand over all your shares to me, and then go away or I'll kill you." After Harry finished speaking, Leonard fell into the abyss. Both of the two choices were fatal. Handing over the shares was equivalent to half of his life. Also, Leonard's current businesses were not in a good place. Several were in a state of loss, and right now he could only rely on these shares. Without these shares, he would go bankrupt immediately. "It's impossible. Don't be paranoid. How could you even think that I'll hand over my shares to you? And if you dare to kill me, you'll have to face the consequences," said Leonard in his aggressive tone. "You still have the audacity to argue with me. You will get punished for bullying people around you. If you don't hand over your shares, I'll kill you right now," Harry said while looking straight into Leonard's eyes. Leonard didn't say anything else. Harry turned around and looked at Tiny Tim and gave him eye contact. Tiny Tim immediately stepped forward after understanding, grabbed Leonard's foot, and was ready to drag him out. He cried out in panic, "Let me go! Let me go! You can't provoke me! You won't live long if you kill me!" "Tiny Tim, take him out and bury him. He's making too much noise." Harry buckled his ears impatiently. Tiny Tim slapped Leonard, and his face got swollen. He could no longer open his mouth and yell. None of his bodyguards were still conscious and dared to stand up and save him. They all trembled and pretended to lie down dead on the ground. All those women who were scared of Leonard finally took a sigh of relief. Everyone was happy. Harry was even more grateful. It wasn't long before Tiny Tim dragged him away. After a while, he came back. "Sir, the old man was soft-hearted and agreed to hand over the shares here." "Well, bring him back," Harry said with a smile. Leonard couldn't even walk properly. His whole body was covered with cement and rock. Tiny Tim dragged Leonard away, put him in an empty oil bucket, and poured cement into it. This was to bury him alive. The King of Hell was petrified. He thought, "What's the point of having all the money and shares if he can't live? In the end, life is the most precious thing." He apologized to Tiny Tim and agreed to transfer all his shares to Harry. Tiny Tim and Leonard walked back in. Leonard was stinking badly. Harry said to Tiny Tim, "What's the matter? Hurry up and take him to the washroom. First, clean him up." Tiny Tim dragged him up to the washroom to clean up. He connected the high-pressure water pipes and took the big water gun to wash him. The cold water rushed over and splashed into the mouth of the king of hell from time to time, which made the old man wail. Tiny Tim was so ruthless with Leonard. After a few minutes, he turned off the water tap and let him put on the wet clothes and brought him back in front of Harry. Leonard was very embarrassed and didn't have the courage to argue with Harry. He handed over all his shares to Harry. All his shares now belonged to Harry. Everyone was happy and cheered in excitement. Leonard was lying on the ground. He could no longer stand up. He was humiliated and ashamed. After transferring his shares to Harry, he was tormented. It looked really pitiful to look at him. Anyways, he deserved this for his arrogant and selfish behavior. Harry looked at the agreement papers and asked Tiny Tim to drag Leonard away. All the women were very grateful to him. Harry rescued all of the women from the grimace of this king of hell. After such havoc, Harry was not interested in role-playing anymore. He wanted to go back to the lounge and rest for a while. Harry said, "Let's go back to the lounge. I'm a little tired." "Yes, Mr. Parker." Andy nodded and led the way. Now, Harry was not only a distinguished guest, but a shareholder as well. "Mr. Parker, would you like to go to a special room to rest?" Andy asked in a low tone. Harry paused for a moment and questioned, "A special room?" Andy shook her head and said, "Earlier you stayed in the guest room, but now you can rest in the special room which Mr. Leonard owned before. After the transfer of shares, his exclusive rooms are also yours." Harry was surprised and asked, "Leonard was just a shareholder. Does every shareholder have a special room or just Leonard?" No, not everyone has a special room. Mr. Leonard was lustful and cruel. He reserved a set of exclusive rooms." Harry understood what kind of room that was and got a little uncomfortable. He nodded and said, "Forget it. I don't want to go to the exclusive room. I'll head back to the guest room." With that, Harry took the lead and walked back to the guest room. Harry felt sick. He sat on the sofa and closed his eyes for a moment. Candy brought tea and water for Harry. Harry said with a smile, "You don't have to do this. I'll just sit here for a while." Candy said firmly, "That's fine, Mr. Parker. You're my boss now." Harry shook his head and didn't say anything else. In such a place, there was no less infighting among women than men. The four executives were fighting for power. The senior managers wanted their own promotions. Meanwhile, Candy was relaxed as she could rely on Randy for support. Moreover, Harry supported her today, and if he continues to support her, she could sit back on her chair comfortably without any worry. No one here could covet her position anymore, not even the other three executives. Harry understood what was going on in Candy's mind, and he said, "Candy." "Yes, Mr. Parker, what can I do for you?" "I know that you have a good relationship with Randy, and I'm brothers with him, so you don't have to do all of this for me. As for you wanting my support, I'll be there for you whenever you need me." Harry's words reassured Candy. Candy was happy and said, "Thank you, Mr. Parker. You're very kind to me. What can I do for you?" Harry said, "I don't want anything. I'll just sit here for a while and wait for Randy to come back." "Okay, Mr. Parker," replied Candy. Harry was relaxing on the sofa. He closed his eyes for a while. After an hour, Randy came back to the room. Harry woke up and rubbed his eyes. "What's the matter with you?" Harry asked suspiciously. Randy said very ominously, No, nothing, but it's the exact same." Then he spat hard on the ground. Harry looked at him, waiting for an explanation. Candy stood up and quickly went to help him. Randy said helplessly, "Candy, you're too dedicated. It was like a real scene. It was so good. I was about to give up." Candy chuckled and glanced at Randy. She said, "Oh, it's true. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Let me help you now. You could sit here and relax." Harry deliberately coughed a few times to remind them of his presence. Randy sat on the sofa and took a big sip of coffee to refresh himself. He relaxed a bit and then explained everything to Harry. It turned out that he went in with the scene of a biochemical crisis. In the beginning, it was a good thing to say that the crisis broke out suddenly on a simulated street, and the people on the street fled in a panic. According to the previous plot, in the escape process, Randy was only required to pick up a woman and run into a house with her. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. The script here had been changed. In order to pursue the true feeling or to make the guest more scared, This biochemical crisis scene became a little more difficult. Randy explained everything to Harry. Randy entered the scene simulation. He got on the horse with a gun and was about to reach the house. After getting into the house, there was a knock on the door. Countless zombies rushed into the house. Although I know it was like all fake, just like the House of Terror, but it all felt so real. The makeup and costumes were so good, said Randy. Everyone got scared. Randy wanted to look at the women who were barely wearing any clothes, but he couldn't. He got angry and came back. I didn't have the money to role play anymore, so I just came back, said Randy. Harry heard the whole story and couldn't help laughing. I thought you were not only strong, but also brave. Who knew you would have to be so shy enough to not show off your skills? Harry said, laughing. Randy felt embarrassed. He didn't dare to say anything to Harry. He sat back and grinned. Harry, don't make fun of me. It's just an accident. I've been to that scene several times, but I don't know what happened today, said Randy. Harry kept on laughing, but didn't say anything. Randy changed the topic with an awkward smile and said, Oh, by the way, didn't you go out to play? I went out for a stroll. It was really amazing, replied Harry. Harry told Randy what exactly happened here a few minutes back. Randy was curious and said, The King of Hell? Again? I didn't meet him. Otherwise, I would have knocked him off without Harry's help. Well, since he is gone, let's not talk about him anymore, replied Harry. Anyway, his life is going to be miserable. He has to deal with so many people. Without money and power, he can't even compete with them, said Randy. Leave it now. He has to pay for his mistakes, said Harry. Speaking of, Harry, you're also a shareholder now. Do you have any ideas for this place? Randy asked. Harry laughed and said, I don't have any ideas. Everything here is perfect. Moreover, Harry was not familiar with this kind of business, so he stayed out of this. Harry felt that this place was really incredible. No man could resist the temptation here. Also, women were good at dealing with men, especially Candy. They were confident and charming. The three of them laughed and continued to talk for a while. After a while, Harry's phone rang. It was Stephen. Stephen had been staying in Florida and barely called. Harry was curious and confused to see his call. Stephen had devoted all his energy and time in the research of the servers since he came up with the imitation version of artificial intelligence called X. Stephen continued to research about few other things as well. When he picked up the phone, Stephen spoke excitedly. Harry, guess what I've made? Harry was curious and replied, What is it? Guess it. Harry said helplessly, I don't know. Just tell me now. You should come here and have a look. It's not clear on the call. I found something extraordinary this time, said Stephen and hung up the call. Harry was curious and confused. He got up and said goodbye to Randy and Candy. I have some important work to do, so I'll leave, said Harry. Before leaving, Harry asked Randy, Would you like to come with me? Randy nodded his head and said, It's rare that Millie is not here. I'll spend some more time here. I'll meet you later. Candy and Randy wanted to spend some time together. Harry understood it and left. After saying goodbye to them, Harry and Tiny Tim went to see Stephen. Harry opened another studio for him in Florida, where Randy's Florida hotel specialized in researching the group of mysterious servers. However, Stephen was very capable. He always surprised Harry with his intelligence. He had been working on artificial intelligence for a while. When Harry came to Stephen's research room, Stephen, who was already excited and couldn't wait, came out happily and said, Harry, you must see what I found. I have to say that those servers are full of treasures. Harry was also curious about it. He was really excited when he made X before. Then he waved and said, What are you waiting for? Let's go in and have a look. In the research institute, there were only 2 to 3 people around. One of them was the nanny who took care of people and cooked meals for them. The other was a high-tech researcher. Harry was curious to look at the research. Although Harry couldn't find anything special, everything was the same as usual. He was puzzled and asked, what do you want me to see? Stephen said, Just wait for a moment. I'll just show it to you. Then he worked to his work table and pressed the button on the keyboard. The laser projection screen lighted up. The whole wall was covered with the screen. There were some graphics and data on it. It seemed very complicated. Is this the new design of something? Harry asked. Stephen said, Yes, that's right. You might not know what kind of design drawing this is. What is so interesting about the design? Hurry up and say it, Harry said helplessly. I cracked this design from an encrypted file in the server. There were 2 kinds of designs. One a design drawing and material formula of a super battery, and the other was a bionic robot. Wait, what? It's incredible, Harry said. Super energy batteries use quantum resonance technology. For example, if you use this technology to design a battery the size of a normal AA battery, how much power do you have in it? Stephen asked excitedly. Just tell me everything. Stop playing games with me now, Harry said and picked up a stick. No. Okay, don't get too excited. First, put down the stick. I'll tell you everything. Stephen staggered with fright. Then say it. A superpower battery of the size of a AA battery can provide the endurance of an electric car to circle the Earth. It's amazing. Harry took a deep breath and asked, "What is a bionic robot?" Stephen was even more excited. The bionic robot is not the type we usually see, but real bionics. Like the Terminator, what that is. You're kidding, right? Harry was shocked and didn't believe it. They looked like real people. There was no difference in appearance. Reaching the level of the Terminator would be magnificent. Wait, first artificial intelligence, then super battery and bionic robot. These three technologies are incredible. All these are high technologies, Harry said. Stephen nodded and said, This technology is far beyond our times. I don't know where it came from and why it exists in such shabby servers. I'm afraid the things involved are not what we imagined, Harry said slowly. Yes, now that we've come across such dynamic technology, it's like holding a priceless treasure in our hands. We don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse. Harry, I think we need more security here, Stephen said. I agree, it's necessary, Harry replied. Earlier, he didn't take it seriously, so Harry didn't pay enough attention to it. But now, Harry felt that Stephen was serious and he really needed more security. You don't have to be worried about it anymore. I'll place more guards around the lab and you can continue with your research, Harry said in a comforting way. Well, I'm not so worried about myself. I'm just worried that the technology might get into the hands of the others, replied Stephen. Harry patted Stephen on the shoulder and said, Don't worry, I'll protect you. No one can harm you or this technology. I think we should use this technologies for more security as well. Harry was stunned and asked, Do you want me to set up a production center and create a large number of machine legions? Oh, yes. We have special programs, super batteries, and mechanical bionics technology. Now it's time for us to produce all these things. If this is successful, you can create these on a large scale and soon you'll be dominating the world. Stephen got more excited. A moment later, Harry slowly said, First, let me think about it. I need a little more time. Stephen nodded excitedly and said, No problem. Anyway, this is all your stuff. You can do whatever you want. I'll think about your suggestion. Okay, can you get me a group of mechanical maids out for me? asked Stephen. Harry said, Well, what do you want to do with them? Stephen squeezed his eyes. Take a guess. Stephen's biggest dream was to live in a big house and wake up with a lot of beautiful maids. In reality, this would not be possible. Only the bionic robot can fulfill Stephen's fantasies. And he was a programmer. He could change them however he wished. It was just like playing games. Harry laughed and said, Your hobby is really special. I couldn't help it. I don't ask much, just this little wish. Then he made a gesture with his little finger. Harry nodded and said, Let's not talk about this. First, I think you have to change your research position. There is an island beside Allen Island. I think it's better to work there. It's okay. I don't have any problem with that. Stephen didn't care about it much. Harry nodded and said, That's settled. It's convenient for you to go there. I'll send someone to protect you. It's far away from here, and it's not convenient to send people back and forth. After a while, Harry said goodbye to Stephen and went out of the research institute. Harry returned back to his manor on Allen Island. He saw Chelsea sitting in the living room. He asked in surprise, Chelsea, what are you doing here? Seeing Harry, Chelsea stood up and greeted him. Chelsea had been staying in Maryland to manage the entertainment headquarters. Although there were not many big events, there were small events that took place on a regular basis. Also, she was the president of the Student Union of Maryland University. Harry was confused and didn't know why she came to Florida. I have to discuss something very important with you, said Chelsea. Oh, well, I have to tell you something as well, replied Harry. With that, he motioned Chelsea to sit down and ordered his men to bring tea and water. Chelsea didn't like to be vague and went straight to the point. The senior students of our school are going to graduate, and many of them haven't found a job yet. So I was wondering if you could recruit some students from our school. Harry nodded and said, "Sure, no problem. Are you going to graduate this year?" Chelsea nodded. She was one grade older than Harry, and now she was going to graduate. However, the school wanted to keep her because of her excellent work as the student president in recent years, but Chelsea refused. Chelsea wanted to stay beside Harry. She couldn't be with Harry if she continued to stay in school. "What do you want to discuss, Harry?" Chelsea asked. I'm planning to move to the headquarters of the company. The resources in Florida are much better than those in Maryland, which will benefit the company's future development," Harry said. Chelsea agreed to it. Moreover, she wanted to stay with Harry in the future. "Do you want to tell me anything else? Also, how's Jen?" Harry asked. Jen had been staying in Maryland. Harry sent Barry and Felton to Maryland just to help them. Harry missed them. Chelsea shook her head and said, "I'm here for a short period of time. I won't stay for too long, and that's why they didn't come along." Harry remained silent for a moment. "Also, if you're recruiting students, find graduates from mechanical and electronics. We need some engineers from these fields," said Harry. Engineers? Chelsea was a little confused. Most of Harry's industries were service industries. "Why do you want to recruit engineers?" asked Chelsea. "I'm building a new research center." "Oh, well, I'll do it as soon as I get back." Chelsea nodded. After talking about the matter, Chelsea returned back to Maryland. After seeing her off, Harry made a phone call to Anna. "Hello, Mr. Parker. How can I help you?" asked Anna. "I need to talk to you about something. Are you free?" asked Harry. "Mr. Parker, what do you need? I'm always here for you," said Anna. "I want to hand over another project," replied Harry. Hearing this, Anna got excited. Harry was her biggest client, and getting another project from him was a big deal for her. Harry took a sip of tea and said, "Do you know anything about special laboratories and manufacturing plants for scientific research?" Anna hesitated and asked, "I don't understand what you're talking about, Mr. Parker." Harry pondered for a while and decided not to disclose the information about his new research technology. Although Anna was reliable, he still didn't trust her completely. "It's similar to the automobile production line," he said. Anna laughed. "Oh, that's not a problem. I've done similar projects before." "Very good. When are you free? Let's meet and talk about it." "I'll be there soon," replied Anna with a smile on her face. Harry was her top customer, and she didn't want to lose a big client like Harry. Within a day, she came to Florida to meet Harry. Harry sent a helicopter to pick her up. Anna expected that she was going to land directly in Harry's manor, but instead she landed on a deserted island. Anna was puzzled. After getting off the helicopter, she saw Harry waiting for her. She walked towards Harry and said, "Hello, Mr. Parker. How long have you been waiting?" Harry waved his hand and said, "Hello, Anna. I came here just a few minutes back." Anna took a deep breath and asked, "What is this place, Mr. Parker?" "Do you think this place is suitable to build the lab and factory we talked about earlier?" replied Harry. Anna looked around, and the island was almost adjacent to Allen Island. However, the situation on the island was quite the opposite. The vegetation on Allen Island was dense and vigorous, but this island was bare, and only a large area of rocks was exposed outside. Anna walked a few steps and looked around. She nodded and said, "Initially, there won't be a problem. The requirements for research laboratories and factories aren't too many, but—" "What is it?" "We have to look for sufficient energy and electricity resources," Anna said. Harry agreed to it and said, "This is really a problem. So can you find a solution for this issue?" Harry didn't have an option other than building the factory and laboratory on a deserted island because things he was planning to produce were enormous. It was best to keep it hidden from people. Although Harry used wind power, solar power, and tidal power in his manor, but it was not suitable to use it in factories because the power required by factories was too large, and these methods couldn't meet the demands. Also, it would require a lot of money. If you wanted to use green energies like wind power, it would require a large area of time. Fortunately, Anna turned around on the desert island and got a perfect solution for it. "Mr. Parker, the island is really unique. It's perfect for building factories. I think I found a solution to the problem of energy supply." Harry was surprised and said, "Really? What is it?" The deserted island was close to Allen Island, but the two islands were very different from each other. There were no resources available on this island. Anna found out that the underground water level of this island was very shallow. They had to dig a few meters for the water. Also, the underground water was hot. Harry looked at the water and asked in surprise, "A hot spring? Why is there a smell of sulfur?" Yes, there are abundant geothermal resources on this island. As long as we use it, we can build several non-stop geothermal power stations here. Although there were hot springs and geothermal resources on the main island of Moon Island and Allen Island, the scale on this island was much larger than in other places, which was convenient for the development and utilization of industry. As long as a few geothermal power stations were built, they could even be used on Moon Island. So far, tidal power generation was used there, and the power supply was very tight, which hindered the normal development of the tourist center. Mr. Cross had already reported the problem of electricity to Harry, but he had no good solution, so he had to put it on hold. Now, with the geothermal energy on this island, everything would be solved. Harry took out the map, thought about it carefully, and said to Anna, "The factory and power station will be built here. In addition, a dormitory building for employees and a canteen will also be constructed." "All right," Anna answered. Harry raised his hand and said, "This is just a rough outline of the map. You can make a more detailed map." Harry pointed to the land reclamation position on the map and said softly, "I also want to build a small town here." Anna got a little confused. She thought, Harry wants to build a small town for himself? He sure is different from others. Harry had his own considerations. The technology in that group of mysterious servers was a blessing as well as a curse. Even Harry didn't know how deep it was. He wanted to stay prepared if something bad happened. He wanted more guards to protect the laboratory. The wolf guards were not enough for it. Harry even considered setting up a robot army for more safety. Now was the time to put it into practice. The first step was to set up laboratories and factories. After the completion of the project, small-scale experimental production would be carried out first. In the future, Moon Island would be his own base camp, and he would have the support of so many employees. After considering these, Harry decided to build a town here. After he told Anna the general plan, Anna went back to gather everything and began the preparations. Back at Maryland University, Chelsea's story caused a stir. Harry was the most legendary figure at Maryland University. Although he hadn't come to the campus for a long time, his deeds had been constantly changing. As the most powerful super rich man, his identity was still mysterious, which made people curious. Harry was now in the eyes of the students of Maryland University, and the people who used to have a close relationship with Harry, like Barry and Felton, had completely changed. They were more confident. They traveled around in luxurious cars and wore branded clothes. They were also followed by their subordinates. In fact, after Barry and Felton got into trouble last time, Harry was angry for a while. Although after a slight punishment, he forgave them. After all, they were his brothers who shared everything with him. Harry couldn't really send them back to the bottom. With the example of Barry, nobody on the entire campus expected to enter Harry's company. Therefore, the graduates of Maryland University this year were different from those in previous years. In the past, it was the first choice for graduates to enter public office or foreign enterprises. This year, everyone wanted to go to Harry's company because of the comfort and resources available. Also, there were many beautiful ladies. Since Harry gave Barry and Felton the job of recruiting trainees and reserving artists, they had done a great job. Not to mention that almost all the beautiful girls at Maryland University had been recruited by them. Harry's company had become a dream place for everyone. Barry and Felton had no difficulty in recruiting people. As soon as they showed up on campus, countless girls would come up to them in order to get the qualifications to join Harry's company. In the beginning, they were very excited. They had been single for many years, and now they wanted to be around women. Barry and Felton were happy, and soon they couldn't stand it. But all the young girls wanted to be in Harry's company. This made Barry and Felton jealous. The boys were still upset. All the girls had gone to Harry's company. There was no way they could talk to them. They looked forward to the time when Harry's company would start recruiting boys. After a while, Chelsea published the recruitment advertisement in the school forum. "Look, Star Moon Entertainment is hiring." "It's for girls. What does it have to do with us?" "No, this time it's for both men and women." "What? Let me have a look." "Oh my God, We boys are finally on our way. I'll send my resume now. This was like a dream come true for all the boys at Maryland University. All they ever wanted was to work at Harry's company. Isn't it an entertainment company? Why is he recruiting engineering majors? Why do you care about it? Isn't it good for us? Yeah, I know. Now we have to hurry up, otherwise it'll be too late. Yeah, can you lend me your computer? No, wait, I haven't finished my resume yet. The boys of Maryland University had been looking forward to this all day long. In a short time, countless resumes rushed into the inbox of Harry's company. Chelsea took help of 10 assistants and worked overtime for a week to finish all the applications. Chelsea had a severe headache. Previously, she was entrusted by the school to help graduates find a good job. This year, finding jobs was more difficult, and the school couldn't find a suitable job for all the students. Maryland University was a famous university. To keep up the reputation, the employment rate of graduates couldn't be ignored. Therefore, Chelsea thought of recruiting a group of high-quality graduates for Harry's company, but she didn't expect it to be so popular. The human resources department of the company collapsed when they saw so many applicants. Chelsea had to organize the company's top management to help the human resources department. Those who met the requirements were to be selected first, and those who were not suitable would be eliminated directly. After reviewing the applications, the next step was to inform the qualified people to come to the company for an interview. The interview place was the company headquarters in Maryland. But even though a large number of candidates had been selected, the number of candidates left was still so many. There were thousands of applicants. As there were so many people, it was impossible to finish all the interviews in one day. Chelsea scheduled the interviews over a span of several days. For 3 consecutive days, more than 300 people came to line up for the interview each day, and there were many resumes that had not been selected, but they were not willing to join in with a little hope. On the first day, Barry and Felton got up early in the morning, dressed like kings, and came to the company. Their favorite thing was to show off in front of their classmates. The main reason was that they didn't get along well in the past and were looked down upon all day. Now relying on Harry, they were suddenly upper-class people. All they wanted was to show off among their classmates. It's Barry and Felton. Look how unfair it is for us. Others gritted their teeth and said, Barry Felton, I'm not with you. Brother, why do you have such hatred towards us? Alas, don't provoke him. Barry and Felton were not only inviolable, but many people wanted to be like them because of the money they had made. Don't hate us. It all depends on your ability in the end. If you enter Harry's company, you could do well. Yes, I don't believe I can't get into Harry's eyes with my ability. At least I'm much better than these 2 idiots. Seeing Barry and Felton, a group of candidates were inspired with ambition. Meanwhile, Chelsea sat in her office and looked at all the applications. These candidates who were interviewed by the Human Resource Department were excellent. Now, Chelsea's task was to select the best ones for Harry. She was staring at a resume in her hand, dazed as she read. Callie, a famous scholar of engineering at Maryland University, is proficient in mechanics and materials and also in electronics. Chelsea had a long list of professional terms in her hand. People didn't know that Callie was also a doctoral student majoring in many subjects. Chelsea was very impressed with Callie. Chelsea was aware of the great work that Callie did. Everyone used to call her a legend because she was the undisputed valedictorian in the school. It was tough for others to finish one major in 4 years of the university, and Callie had easily learned all the engineering majors in the school at the same time. Even more, she published papers since the beginning of her freshman year, all of which were high-tech, incredible, and published in authoritative magazines. Chelsea couldn't understand why such a talented person would come to an entertainment company for a small interview. Callie was a genius student. After graduating from her senior year, the school was reluctant to let her go. The school wanted her to stay and become a professor. Professors in university, especially those in engineering, were all top scientists. They were mainly responsible for research work. They took lectures when they had free time, so Chelsea was confused. She thought, what's the matter with Callie? It was a bit unexpected for Chelsea. An engineering student sent her resume to an entertainment company. It was just weird. Chelsea picked up the phone and called HR. Is a candidate named Callie still in the office? Chelsea, yes, she's still here. Yes, okay, please send her to my office. It was just that the valedictorian's position in the school was no less than the president of the student union, and it was even more important. Although Chelsea was now the president of Star Moon Entertainment Company, she didn't feel that she had much status while facing a valedictorian. Chelsea respected people with wisdom. Without waiting for a moment, Callie walked into Chelsea's office. Callie, I didn't expect you to apply here. I was shocked when I saw your resume. Chelsea stood up. As the president of the student union, they had talked with each other several times, but they were not much familiar with each other. Chelsea wanted her to stay in Harry's company. In Chelsea's eyes, Callie was a genius. Her IQ was high, which needed to be considered. Usually, she didn't chat with people much, but rather preferred to read and write in silence. Callie seemed to be very introverted. People used to say that she would do something great in her life. Callie looked at Chelsea with bright eyes and asked, "Are you going to reject me?" Chelsea didn't understand and replied, how can you say that? Because you have an entertainment company here. You're going to tell me I'm in the wrong place, right? Because this job isn't related to what I majored in." Chelsea understood her logic and quickly shook her head and said, No, 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 you misunderstood me. I'm grateful to welcome you here." "Oh." Callie just nodded and remained silent. Chelsea was a little uncomfortable. She didn't know what to say to her. After a while, Chelsea asked, "Callie, I just don't understand. Why do you want a job here?" "Funding." What Callie said was too short. Chelsea didn't understand what she said. "What, funds?" "I have a project that needs a lot of money. The school couldn't provide for it. So I came here to see if I can get what I need," Callie said. She was stunned for a long time to understand the connection. "You came here just to ask for funds? You could have directly contacted me or Harry for that. Why did you send your resume?" Harry was a rich and well-known man in the school. Callie must have heard about it for a long time, and when the school couldn't provide the large amount of money that Callie needed, she thought of contacting Harry. For Maryland University, Callie was a priceless treasure. No matter what she asked for, the school would meet her requirements. It was shocking that Callie had left the school to secure more funding. Chelsea was staring at Callie, thinking that this might be an excellent opportunity. Harry's career was scaling new heights, and there were more and more challenges in the design industry, so he needed more talented people to join him. And Callie was a rising star. It would be a big help for Harry. At this time, Chelsea made up her mind to seize the opportunity. "I'll call Harry." Thinking of this, Chelsea first calms Callie and goes out of the office to call Harry. She couldn't take this decision on her own. Harry was playing football with Juniper on the lawn. He got a phone call from Chelsea. Harry didn't know why Chelsea was calling him. Chelsea never called him unless it was very important. Chelsea would come to Harry only if it was really urgent and she couldn't take the decision on her own. Recently, everything was going perfectly fine and stable in the company, so Harry was surprised to see the call. "Hello, Chelsea. What can I do for you?" "Harry, a genius girl has come to give the interview." On the phone, Chelsea said very excitedly, What?" It was just an ordinary recruitment interview, and the recruiters were all students from Maryland University, all fresh graduates. "Did you hear about a Callie when you were at school?" Chelsea asked mysteriously. Harry recalled and said, "Callie, the name seems to be a little familiar. Is she the one you're talking about?" When he was at school, Harry seldom inquired about gossip and so on. He spent his days studying and picking up garbage. He didn't have the time to pay attention to other things, but after Chelsea said so, Harry vaguely recalled as if he had heard of Callie in school before. "It's the brilliant valedictorian Callie," Chelsea said straight. Harry immediately stood up in surprise and startled Juniper. Holding the ball, she asked, "What's the matter, brother? Is everything all right?" No, you could play by yourself. I gotta play later. I have some important work to do." Harry waved his hand to Juniper to indicate that there was nothing wrong. Chelsea said, "It's her. I don't know why she came to our company for an interview. It's shocking." It was said that the intelligence quotient of students at Maryland University was higher than most universities, ranking at the top of the world. Because Callie's talent could no longer be judged by her academic background alone, although she had just graduated from an undergraduate course. In fact, her knowledge was superior to that of a doctoral student. At school, when she was a sophomore, those old professors already lamented that they could not teach her. In fact, she was more brilliant than the professors. When she went to the class, she not only studied and learned, but it seemed like she was competing with the professors. It was as though people at the same level were communicating with each other. On the contrary, even the professors asked for Callie's advice. In the end, the school really had no choice but to let her manage her own education and allocate the courses and time in the school. So Harry wondered why such an exceptional and brilliant girl would come to his entertainment company to give an interview with a group of undergraduate students. Chelsea said slowly, I'm still wondering about this. I asked her just now, but the result was quite unexpected. She said that a project of hers needs funding, but the school can't provide it. That's why she came here to ask you for help. What's the project about? How much money does she need? Harry asked quickly. Chelsea shook her head and said, I don't know. I haven't asked her yet. It seemed like she doesn't have patience. Just now, she said that if you don't agree, she will go to other places. After a pause, Harry said, well, arrange a meeting with her in Florida. I'll interview her in person. Chelsea's heart fell back and she said, that's what I mean. I can't take decisions about such a big thing. This needs your supervision. Well, you can arrange the plane as soon as possible, Harry said. Chelsea asked, Harry, don't you want to build an incredible smart manufacturing factory? I think Callie will be the right candidate for that. This kind of talent must stay in our company. I'm really surprised to meet her. Harry said with a smile, don't worry, I'll make an offer she can't refuse. Chelsea was relieved to hear this. Harry hung up. Both Harry and Chelsea were proud to have Callie in their company because what Callie said was very clear. She needed a large amount of funds for her scientific research. Therefore, after getting Harry's approval, Chelsea went back to her office and said to Callie, do you mind going to Florida? Harry Parker wants to meet with you in person. Callie thought for a while and then replied, yes, but I have never traveled so far. I don't know how to get to Florida. Chelsea couldn't believe what she had just heard. Callie was a senior and she hadn't traveled alone. After a pause, Chelsea said with a smile, you don't have to worry about this. I'll arrange a flight for you. Callie nodded in relief. That's good, thank you. I hope you can go right away to Florida. Is that okay? Chelsea asked again. Yeah, sure, no problem. Callie agreed very happily. Chelsea nodded with satisfaction and went out to find her assistant and said, go arrange a special plane and call a group of wolf guards to escort the interviewers I selected today to see the boss in Florida. Yes, Miss Chelsea, the assistant nodded. It was not only Callie who wanted to meet Harry in Florida, but also several other students who had been interviewed by Chelsea. After all, many of the majors here were not in line with Star Moon Entertainment. Although the majors were not suitable, they were all top talents. It was a very rare thing to meet them. Therefore, for the sake of recruiting talented people for Harry, Chelsea arranged a meeting for them. The interview process with Star Moon Entertainment Company, which lasted for several days, finally came to an end. For the past few days, the whole company was very busy and there was constant chaos and hustle going on, and the doors were almost jammed by people coming and going. In the end, out of 1,000 candidates, Chelsea left more than 200 of them to sign the work contract. Compared with the tens of thousands of people who had submitted their resumes, few of the interviewers were lucky to meet the boss. 4 of them were lucky and special. They were going to Florida to have a personal interview with Harry. Compared to the other interviewees, the 4 of them were at the top, the geniuses, and their abilities were all accepted by all. Among them was Callie. Although the other 3 were not as famous as her, they were not laymen. Except for Callie, there were 2 boys and 1 girl. Under Chelsea's arrangement, they took a special bus to Maryland Airport and got into a special plane to Florida. Sitting on the special bus arranged by Chelsea for the 4 of them, Callie didn't show much excitement unlike the other 3. It was a business bus worth more than $8 million. Its appearance was relatively low-key, but the luxury in the bus was simply extravagant. And when they reached the airport and got on the plane, it was a huge luxury plane. The treatment was simply top class. Callie was quite unique. She was not concerned about anything else except for her own research. The other 3 couldn't sit at all. In such a spacious plane, apart from luxurious sofa seats, there were independent bars and entertainment rooms, as well as separate luxury suites and beds with bathrooms. Hello, Bart, am I dreaming? I never expected to sit in such a luxury plane in my life. Joseph, calm down. Wow, there's a bedroom as well. The bed is very comfortable. I have to experience all the luxuries in this plane. Bart and Samantha were mechanical engineers. As a senior, they could get the title of first-class engineer. They were very talented. Samantha was not as famous as Callie, but her major was chemical materials. In addition to the 4 of them, there were also normal flight attendants on board, plus 10 accompanying guards. Because these 4 people were rare talents, Chelsea didn't want any problem. When they got off the plane, there was a special person sent by Harry to pick them up. They have never been on such a luxurious plane in their life. Samantha got into a bedroom and began to enjoy the luxury single room treatment alone. Meanwhile, Bart and Joseph were staring at the stewardess. The flight attendants on this plane were all Harry's own employees, and the stewardess were top notch. They were all tall, charming, and beautiful women. The reason why Bart and Joseph came to the interview was that there were so many beautiful women here. They could experience it in advance before they officially entered the company. Although both of them were valedictorians, they couldn't even find someone to go on a date with. They had been single for several years and were very restless. At this time, looking at the charming stewardess, all they wanted was to talk to her, but they were too shy to approach her. The most difficult task for the two of them was to talk to girls. It was 1,000 times more difficult for them to talk to a girl than to solve a math problem. Although there were two girls on the same plane, Callie and Samantha were both talented and beautiful girls. Bart and Joseph didn't care for them. Instead, they were looking at the charming stewardesses on the plane. They were very excited. Their hearts were almost in their mouths. Until the plane landed on Harry's island, the two did not have the courage to talk to the ladies. "Oh, that's not right. We're going to Florida. Where are we right now? We didn't land near the sea," Bart asked strangely. "Yeah, I remember the airport in Florida is not close to the sea. Where are we?" Joseph also asked. Samantha and Callie were also confused. "Welcome to Allen Island." From a distance, Harry greeted them. "Who are Harry?" "Yes, I'm Harry Parker." "Harry Parker!" they all exclaimed. Bart was surprised to see Harry. He came to pick them up. As the most legendary figure of Maryland University, they had seen posts related to him on the school forum before. They thought that Harry would be the same as those other rich men with a more arrogant attitude. Who knew he would be so kind and gentle, like a spring breeze? Bart and Joseph looked at each other, and they were very surprised. They didn't expect that Harry would pick them up in person. They were very flattered. "Where are we?" Samantha asked while rubbing her sleepy eyes. Harry said with a smile, "This is not Florida. As you can tell, we're on an island in the open sea." "Open sea?" "Yes, this is Allen Island, my private island." "Private island?" They were all shocked. They all knew that Harry was a rich man, but owning a private island was way too much. They never expected that. Who knew that Harry not only had a company that would help them become a top star in the industry, but also had a private island? They all wondered how much the island was worth. "It's windy here. Let's go and sit in my manor." Harry waved, and a spacious luxury car arrived. Private islands, manors, it was just a lot of money. Money could buy a lot of things, but there were also many things that cannot be owned by money. While sitting in the car, Harry felt that they were nervous. Then he said with a smile, "Don't be too nervous. We're all classmates at least. Think of this as like a normal gathering between classmates." Okay." Bart nodded. The gap in status was very large here, not to mention that Harry would be their boss in the future. It made it impossible to talk to him casually. After they reached Harry's manor, they were astonished. Under the sunlight, the manor was shining with colorful light. "Here, this is my home. It's rare for my classmates to come here. You could sit here comfortably and relax," Harry said while walking. At this time, Bart could not say anything. He could only follow Harry. It was not until they sat in a spacious living room and drank a cup of coffee. After taking a sip of coffee, Harry said, "I know you're all very talented people. Is there anything you want?" "Well, actually, I haven't figured it out yet. Harry, you are not limited to professional recruitment." "Well, what are you looking for?" Bart inquired. For Harry's company interview, the boys didn't care about anything else. They just rushed to apply for the job when they saw that their majors were the main requirement. Bart's mind was still muddled, and he didn't know what to do after he applied. Harry nodded and said, "You don't have to worry about this. I'm sure there is a suitable position for you." "Oh? I've read all your resumes. I've come up with a new project here, which is about new energy batteries and intelligent machinery." Harry said it briefly. New energy battery and intelligent machinery. Bart's major was really suitable for this project. "Let's talk while we eat," Harry said. Then he got up and motioned for everyone to follow him to the dining room. Bart was dazzled to see the long square table, which was full of delicious food. He couldn't resist himself and started to eat. 3 of the 4 were very comfortable except for Callie. She wasn't interested in the table full of luxury food. Instead, she looked at Harry as if she had something to say. Harry couldn't help asking, "You must be Callie. Don't you like this food?" Do you want someone to make something else for you? Callie shook her head and replied, I'm not hungry now. I just want to ask if you can provide me with the funds. Harry said, I would have talked to you about that later, but now that we're talking about it, I don't know what kind of research project you're going to do and how much funding you need. Bart stopped eating and looked at Callie strangely. Actually, ever since he found out that Callie has also applied for the job at Harry's company, Bart and the others were all shocked as Harry. They had never thought that the super genius in the school would come out for an interview. It was unbelievable. Along the way, Bart and the others wanted to ask Callie why she came here, but Callie was so engrossed in her research that no one had the courage to disturb her. They could only keep it in their hearts, but now they finally knew the answer. She actually came here for research funding. In the end, Callie's words were like a clap of thunder, which shocked everyone. I'm preparing to establish a laboratory to research the miniaturization of nuclear fusion energy. Not only Bart, but even Harry felt as if a thunderbolt had exploded in his mind. The confident look on Harry's face had now disappeared. Nuclear fusion, Harry exclaimed. In the beginning, both Chelsea and Harry felt that Callie's research project required tens of millions. It was a few hundred million. This was really nothing for Harry, but who would have thought that her research would involve nuclear fusion? Nuclear fusion technology was not easy to crack. Nowadays, most of the able countries in the world were conducting their own research. But the problem was that this kind of cutting-edge research project was not an ordinary one. Even the capable countries had to go all out, and the amount of manpower and resources that were invested was immeasurable. The funds used were like a bottomless pit, and it seemed like no matter how much they poured in, it would not be enough. It was something Harry could afford alone. No wonder Callie said that the school could not support her and provide funds for this project. Harry smiled helplessly in his heart. How could he give so much money? Only a country with a lot of funding for scientific research could afford this kind of research. Most people would let this go without the right funding. Harry revealed a bitter smile, not knowing how to tell Callie. Bart and the others were also shocked that their eyeballs almost fell out. Callie, are you all right? Are you really prepared to do this kind of research project by yourself? Have you gone crazy? Samantha asked bluntly. She felt that Callie was here to cause trouble. How could she have even requested that? Harry was rich, but no matter how rich he would not support her with this kind of research. Bart also nodded and agreed. Yeah, Callie, your request is a bit too much. That's right. How can a person support such a project? If you really want to do it, you can join the National Research and Development Team. Joseph also chimed in. However, Callie did not move in the face of these people's doubts. She just stared at Harry with bright eyes. She asked, Can you help me with the funds? Harry almost shook his head and refused. However, when he thought about how she had come all the way here, it was unreasonable for him to reject the offer. He said, Callie, your project is a bit ambitious, but I see that you seem to have a well-thought-out plan. Can you explain it a bit? Harry just didn't want to reject it too directly, so he tactfully asked questions to understand it a little more. Callie, however, said, Don't worry, my research ideas and methods are different from others. If you support me, it won't take long for results to be produced. Harry's expression changed, and he said, Callie, it is very difficult for me to make a decision when you say that. Why don't you tell me how much money and time you need? Bart said, Harry, I don't think there's any need to talk about this. We all know about the normalization of nuclear fusion energy. At this stage, it's impossible to implement technology at all, let alone miniaturize it. Yeah, let Callie wake up. Why does it look like she is in a daze? Samantha also said. Harry waved his hand and said, Let Callie talk about her thoughts. Seeing Harry say this, the few of them stopped talking and looked at Callie, waiting for her to explain it in detail. However, Callie said, You guys will not understand even if I tell you the specific research method. A few of them were instantly angered to the point of collapse. Harry was not a bookworm, so he did not feel anything. Anyway, this was the truth, and he really did not understand. However, Bart and the others couldn't help it. Bart barked angrily at her. Who are you looking down on? Why do you think others won't understand? Give me 10 billion. I promise that the results will be out within a year, Callie said confidently. Impossible. Bart slammed the table and stood up. Do you think we're all idiots? The smartest minds in the world can't figure this out. There is still a long way to go. You can produce results with $10 billion in a year? Whom are you trying to trick? Harry felt that what Bart said made sense. He really did not know where Callie got the confidence to complete such an advanced project independently. Callie shook her head and said, "If you believe me, then support me. If you don't believe me, then I'll leave." Samantha laughed and said, "Stop dreaming. How can anyone support you? This is the most cutting edge project. It is publicly acknowledged as a difficult problem." "If you can really do it," Samantha smiled. "If you really can do it, then you won't be a genius anymore. You'll be a god. No, an alien," Joseph added. Harry remained silent. Callie got up and said, "Anyway, that's it. Believe me or not, I can definitely do it. If you can provide funds, then I'll stay. Or else, I'll take my leave." After saying that, she was about to leave, but Harry stopped her and said, "Wait, are you really sure about this?" Bart became anxious. "Harry, don't believe her. Callie's obsessed. She's speaking of the impossible. She thinks it's just a fantasy." "That's right. A project that even a developed country cannot do can be completed by her alone. Do you think you're Tony Stark?" Joseph said. Harry remained silent and did not speak. He was still confused and couldn't make the decision. He neither refused nor agreed. Now he was thinking about another thing. Although the project mentioned by Callie sounded like a fantasy, Harry had a vague feeling that it could work. He thought what she said might be true, and it was not just empty talk. Relatively speaking, Harry still believed in the ability of this valedictorian. Harry knew that there were some encrypt technologies in his own group of servers. At present, Stephen had cracked only a few, but these technologies were beyond the current era. He was not sure if there was more black technologies in the files that hadn't been cracked. Since Harry had the best equipment, Callie was sure that if she could develop an immature nuclear fusion application technology, it was here with Harry's equipment. Thinking of this, Harry stood up and said, "Wait a minute. I didn't say I won't invest in you." Everyone was confused. "What? Harry, are you going to invest?" Bart did not expect Harry to simply agree to Allie's request. More than $10 billion, so much money was thrown into a project that couldn't be completed yet since there weren't enough technological advances yet. Was it a waste of money? Callie was also surprised and asked, "Do you really want to invest in this project?" Harry said with a confident smile, "In the beginning, I was really concerned, but since you said that it's $10 billion funding, it's no problem. For me, this money is nothing at all." "$10 billion is nothing." Bart was shocked. "No, I can't wrap my head around it. Just a few words from Callie and he'll invest $10 billion. Joseph was in awe. Bart, Joseph, and Samantha were shocked and thought for a moment that Harry and Callie were playing a prank on them. "No, Harry, isn't it a bit hasty?" Bart advised. He would be Harry's employee. The boss was a little irrational. As an employee, he had the responsibility to persuade. So he stood up to stop Harry, and as a classmate, he didn't want Harry to suffer any losses because of this. "Yes, Harry, I think you should think twice about it. Although Callie is very capable, it's one thing to say it and another to do it," Samantha also advised. Harry shook his head and said, "I understand what you're all trying to say, but I believe in Callie. And as I said, $10 billion is not even a pinch to me. Even if it is not enough, it will not matter to me if I need to add another $10 billion or even $20 billion later." Bart and the others were dumbfounded and had finally understood what it meant to be in the presence of the super rich man. It was not money in other people's hands. It was just like playing a game. He threw out tens of billions without blinking an eye. Harry had his own considerations. Callie's project was promising, and if it worked, it would revolutionize the world. Harry had matured artificial intelligence technology, as well as super battery and bionic robot technology. Coupled with Callie's nuclear fusion application technology, once combined, Harry could really build an empire of his own. This was the same as Stephen's dream. Relying on these technologies beyond the times, Harry would have the power to dominate the world. Although Harry did not have such ambition at this time, considering that the threat he would face in the future might become more and more powerful, it was also necessary to take safe defensive measures on his own side. Thinking of this, Harry waved to Callie and said, "Callie, come with me. I have something to show you." Then he said to Bart, "I apologize. I have to go out for a while. Make yourself at home here at the manor." Harry couldn't wait to take Callie to Stephen's studio. Stephen's studio hadn't been moved yet, since its establishment had been the only one to see it, which looked really desolate. and Harry had long wanted to find some people to fill in. But because of a lot of scruples, he finally gave up. The most important thing was that this was the biggest secret owned by Harry. Even the people he was most familiar with didn't know about it. Callie was different. So, on the way to Steven's studio, Harry decided to have a chat with Callie first. Callie, I'm going to take you to the place where my biggest secret lies. I can't disclose it to anyone, so I'll tell you everything before we go. What are you talking about? Callie was confused and didn't know what Harry was talking about. Harry said, if you accept my funds, you have to stay here. This is likely to be a lifetime commitment. Callie frowned. Harry said, you always know that if the project you are about to take on succeeds, then it will have a great impact on the world, so... Before Harry finished, Callie could not wait to ask, what do you mean? Do you have some place to study super technology? Harry nodded implicitly. Yes, and several advancements have been already made. I understand. Callie immediately nodded and replied. Harry didn't respond. After a while, he asked, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Callie said, do you mean that if I accept your funds, I will have to work with you all my life? Harry nodded. Callie said naturally, I agree, but only if you really have the super technology you claim to have. Harry was immediately surprised. Callie was a genius with one of the world's top IQs. At first, he thought that there would be some twists and turns while working with her. Who knew that she wouldn't be a problem to work with? Harry said happily, that's great. There are not only advanced technologies in my research institute, but also many are being discovered with every passing minute. Callie agreed. She had no other hobbies. Other people of the same age were busy enjoying the passions of being youthful at this time. They were either dating or hanging out with friends, but Callie was indulged in her own research all day. Recently, she made a breakthrough in fusion technology and was trying to carry out experiments to see if it could be realized. But after the application was handed to the school, it was rejected. One reason was that the required funds were too large. The other reason was that Callie's report was not clear enough. People in the school thought that she was bewildered by her research, so she came to Harry for help. Ordinary people, no matter how rich they were, couldn't take out so much money just because of Callie's words. It was obvious that the results weren't acquired yet, but Harry thought that Callie's project was very reliable. There would always be some geniuses in the world who could do things others couldn't imagine. Callie was incredible, and so was the technology in Harry's servers. Harry believed that those technologies certainly didn't appear out of thin air. They had been developed and put in by someone, but he didn't know what went wrong. Those technologies could break through the limitations of the times, but instead of being revealed to the world, they were buried in a group of neglected servers. After the negotiation, Harry took Callie to Stephen's studio. Although Harry did not use any contract to restrict Callie, Harry believed that Callie would never leave after seeing the technologies he had. So he took her directly to Stephen's lab. At this time, there were a large number of elite wolf guards guarding the studio. Since Harry realized how incredible these technologies were, he became more and more attentive toward keeping them safe. When the guards at the gate saw Harry, they immediately bowed and let him in. Sir, is Stephen in there? He asked casually. Yes, I haven't seen him leave yet. Harry thought Stephen was also a genius. The amazing hacker technology was enough to explain everything, and the encryption technology in the mysterious server must have been very difficult to crack. But after he handed it to Stephen, he had already cracked several technical documents. Just being different from Callie, Stephen was more low-key. He only worked by himself all day and never showed off in front of others. So no one knew that there was another genius at Maryland University. In this way, Harry thought, Maryland University has some hidden talents. After walking into the lab, when Harry and Callie saw Stephen, he was not surprised. He was sitting beside his computer, punching at the keyboard and fiddling with the data. Harry wanted to burst his bubble, but Callie wanted to observe him. Wait, I'll see what he's doing. Callie's eyes were hooked. It seemed that what Stephen was tampering with aroused her interest. How can the encryption of this file be so troublesome? There's one more way to solve it. It's endless, Stephen said to himself as he worked. After a while, Callie couldn't help saying, I don't think your algorithm has found the right direction. Why don't you try the whole solution? Stephen subconsciously replied, I tried it, but it didn't work. After that, he turned around in his chair and was startled to see someone standing behind him. Harry, it's you. I didn't realize you were here. Who is this? Stephen said. Harry said with a smile, I see you were too engrossed with your work, so I didn't want to disturb you. Let me introduce you to Callie, who is also from our school. As soon as he finished, Stephen jumped up. Who? Callie? Hello, I'm Callie. I'm also from Maryland University. Oh my God, Callie! Why are you here? Stephen asked strangely. Harry interrupted and said, Callie's here to apply for a job. I want you to work with her. You both will be colleagues in the future. Stephen couldn't believe his eyes and said, Callie applied for a job here? Let's sit down and have a chat, Harry said with a smile. After listening to the whole story, Stephen's chin fell to the ground. What? Callie, you already have a nuclear fusion power generation technology? It's impossible, isn't it? Stephen was shocked. Harry shook his head. What's impossible? Isn't what you're studying equally incredible? That's true. When Harry returned to the manor, he was alone. The technology cracked by Stephen and the mysterious server was an eye-opener for Callie, and there were several items she had prepared to study before, which just aroused her interest. What makes her reluctant to go was that there were many incomplete technologies that Stephen cracked. It was said that some of these incomplete technologies were not found in the server. Or it was not complete. No matter how he tried to crack the server, it was useless. But it was these incomplete technologies that aroused Callie's greater interest. She was really not interested in the complete technology. It had been studied by others. What's the fun in learning what other people had already figured out? What she liked most was to finish what others couldn't. Fortunately, the studio area was relatively large and there were a lot of living facilities and living space, let alone 2 or 3 people, even dozens of people. Back in the manor, Harry talked to Bart again. Several people were willing to stay with Harry here. This was no problem. It's easy to say that for Harry's intelligent factory to be built, they could all be employed, so this was not a problem. As for the salary, Harry also gave them an amount according to high standards. Bart was not dissatisfied with them. Everyone was happy. After dinner, Harry sent them back to Maryland. When the smart factory was built, a few people would come back to work. After seeing the man off, he went back to his study in the manor. Harry sat on the chair and thought deeply. In the beginning, Harry didn't want to make a profit in the construction of Intelligent Factory. Instead, he wanted to cash in several black technologies and see what he could do. Nuclear fusion power generation technology can provide him with a continuous stream of energy. And after it can be miniaturized, it was even more powerful. Applied to the bionic robot of artificial intelligence, it means that Harry can really create an infinite army of robots. Of course, about the control of the world and dominate the world, Harry had no such interest or ambition. What he's thinking about now was how to use these incredible technologies in his life to make it more convenient. For example, the manor on Island Island was too big and there were too few servants. If it's really like what Stephen said, it would be fun to make some mechanical maids. And robots don't need a rest. They're loyal and they have less trouble. Another example was the car. The current electric car was not perfect. If the super battery was used on it, it will be mature and more environmentally friendly and convenient. In addition to the automatic driving assisted by artificial intelligence, Harry thinks it was not impossible to commercialize. As long as we lower the level of technology, we can put it into the market without showing that we have mastered super technology. So when the smart factory is built, we'll test waters with autonomous electric vehicles first, Harry said to himself. What are you talking about, sir? June came in and asked. Oh, it's okay. I'm thinking about how to apply the technology in Stephen's studio. The only one who knows all the secrets of Harry was June. As Harry's bodyguard, Harry never concealed anything from her. Self-driving car. I think it's not time to rush into the market now, June said suddenly. Well, why do you say that? Harry asked. Because the development couldn't keep up with the pace. The technology was good, but there were still many obstacles when it was applied to the actual traffic, such as how to judge the responsibility for accidents. After thinking for a while, Harry said with a smile, It's better to try it separately. Separate? June didn't understand. Electric cars were still done, but the automatic driving system is not installed on the vehicle, but on the mobile phone when needed. Can be linked to the car as open navigation. Harry writes and paints as he speaks. June's eyes brightened and said, Sir, this idea is really wonderful. Now, almost everyone has a mobile phone, and there are very simple AI assistants on the mobile phone. Unfortunately, they were all immature technologies. They can only do simple assistance, which is as dispensable as chicken ribs, but your AI is not the same. This is a true AI. If we regard mobile phones as the core of the links, then the electric car was equivalent to the accessory pendant. Once necessary, it can be linked to enable a series of functions at any time. And it's not just cars, other intelligent tools can be applied to it. In fact, now this kind of application technology has begun to take shape, but the core of artificial intelligence is not mature enough. Stephen can completely fill in this shortest shortcoming. Well, that's it. The smart factory makes two products at the same time: mobile phones and cars. Build production lines at the same time. Harry decided to go with the idea. The next step was to wait patiently for Anna's design and construction. The factory was just a workshop for manufacturing products. In the later stage, they need to purchase the corresponding production lines and raw materials. The trouble is still behind them. However, Harry didn't need to do anything by himself. He just needs to be responsible for decision making, leaving the rest of it to his subordinates. Mr. Cross hasn't been very busy recently. Tell him about it and let him take charge. June said, "Yes, I'll go inform him now." June bows out of the room. Harry stood up and stretched. After thinking about nothing else, he went back to his room to have a rest. Harry woke up early the next day. While having breakfast in the kitchen, Manson came. "Boss, our movie has been finished, and the special effects of the latest Crisis movie has been completed," Manson said happily. "Oh, so fast," Harry said unexpectedly. According to the original plan, Harry thought it would take more than a month to finish it. Unexpectedly, he got the good news early in the morning. It was really good news. Making movies really costs a lot of money. Because it was the sole investment of Harry, all the expenses were his own. Although the cost of funds compared to Harry's assets was a drop in the bucket, but the real worry was image. Harry makes a lot of big news during his filming. "Sit down, you haven't eaten yet. Talk about the show plan while eating," Harry said lightly. Manson was polite, nodded, and sat down. After such a long time of contact, he had already known his boss's preferences. As long as the work was done well, there was no need to be careful in front of Harry. "Boss, I think so. Doomsday Legends can be put into the cinema now. The publicity didn't need to be spread too much. As long as it's appropriate, many people are looking forward to the film in the early stage." "Yes, yes." Harry eats and signals to Manson to continue. "Because this was a big production, we can have 2 months' time. After the Doomsday Legends is finished, the second film will be close to the line. But I think we should change the name." "Change the name?" Harry didn't know why. Manson nodded and said, "Yes, they're all movies produced by our company. Although there are different stories, for the sake of the main brand, there should be some connection in the name." "Well, that's fair enough. What do you think is a better name?" "I think it's better to call it The Legend of the Beast. It's all legends. It sounds like a series. If we make the third movie later, we can also use the name of Legend." Harry said with a smile, "Very interesting. Okay, well, we could just do as you say." "Good." Manson was very happy. Although Harry was a big boss, what his subordinates liked most was that he was good at listening to other suggestions and was willing to accept them. "I don't know what's shown in the cinema. I'll leave it to you," Harry said again. "It's simple, boss. You can trust me," Manson said confidently. Previously, as a director of low-cost literary films, Manson knew a lot. It's not just the shooting, production, promotion, and release of the film that he has to do himself. The main thing was that the cost of small production was low. If he didn't do these jobs himself, he couldn't find others. Harry also asked, "Although I don't care about the money, I have more credibility when the box office is good. The cinema line of Harvey's family can give us support." Manson said with a smile, I know. I'll get in touch with Sean." As for the box office, Manson was very confident. First, the story of the film was very good with sufficient funds and special effects. Then there was a strong cast of actors, almost all-star cast. It's definitely a feast for the audience, not to mention two of the world's top stars. "Well, I'll do the publicity work first today," Manson said happily. Manson wolfed down the meal on his plate, wiped his mouth, and left with Harry. He has a lot of work to do now that the film is coming on. Manson was really attentive. Before noon, the publicity work of the film was released on the whole network. First film has been finished, and Manson, the chief director, is going to shoot the next film. The corresponding publicity work has not kept up, which leads to the urgency of the current publicity. The show is scheduled 3 days later, just at the weekend. Originally, Harry thought that the effect of such a little time would not be very good, but the result was unexpected. As soon as the release date of the film was announced, the attention of the film on the internet rose sharply. There was no need for Harry to spend money on hype. Netizens spontaneously put the news on the top of the headlines. Look, Luca, Doomsday Legends is coming. What Harry didn't know was that the movie Doomsday Legends was really popular. Even if there was no news for some time, netizens have been discussing it in private. There are many unscrupulous small media in order to cheat click, do a lot of fake release time. Now that the real news has come out and has immediately aroused super high attention on the internet. Great, I'm finally looking forward to the release. I really want to see what the role Celeste plays in the play. And Issa Ivy in the movie poster, her figure is so hot. Because Harry kept the plot of the film secret very well, nobody knew the specific plot of the film at all. Therefore, it aroused the curiosity of most people. There were too many stars who wanted to know what role their idols play in it. The cinemas of Manson and Harvey's family moved very quickly and arranged a series of work for the film release in 3 days. With the film's fixed file, the popularity of the internet was getting higher and higher, and countless netizens have said that they will go to the cinema to watch it when it was released on the first day. Upsurge of heat was a good thing. Manson couldn't help but go to Harry to express his excitement. Boss, look at this trend. Our movies are going to sell well. Manson couldn't sit still now. Although he has won many awards in the past, the films he makes are actually low cost and, well, not that popular. Until now, when he entered Harry's company, this was the real first big production, and Manson was also looking forward to a good start. If the first big film was successful, he would be able to make the first big movie towards a first-class director. So now the popularity of movies is rising. The happiest person is not Harry, but Manson. Looking at himself, the director's hands almost jumped to the ceiling. Harry said with a smile, calm down, calm down. Now that the film has not been released, everything depends on the box office. It's too early to be happy. I don't think it's the title. The trailer had a good response, Manson said with a smile. It's just a trailer. It didn't represent the final result, Harry said. He also felt that the movie might sell well, but Harry was not sure until the final success. There used to be a lot of movies that were cheered by trailers, but they were scolded as shit after they were released, and it's too early to be happy. Manson can understand Harry's calmness. Anyway, in his opinion, Doomsday Legends was a real blockbuster with a strong lineup, explosive special effects, and rigorous story. As the saying goes, don't get your hopes up. Mr. Manson, we have to calm down, Harry advised. Well, boss, is the ticket price of this movie changing? Manson asked again. Harry was quiet for a moment. Why do you want to change the ticket price? It's not fixed early. Now Manson said that, which makes Harry a little confused. The ticket price was not the one that Harry has the final say because it involves the sharing of profits with the cinema. So both sides discussed it in accordance to the usual practice. Generally speaking, the box office of ordinary movies, according to the luxury standard of cinemas, ranges from more than $10 to dozens of dollars. The ticket price for large-scale movies, commonly known as blockbusters, was generally around $10. For better cinemas, it may be between $15 to $20. As for the separate luxury private rooms in the cinema, that's the extra price. After discussion, the basic ticket price for Harry's movie, which was going to go online soon, was $12. In fact, the price was relatively cheap. Considering that this was the first film, it gave them a certain discount, which meant that it could get a word of mouth instead of a profit. Anyway, a little more, a little less, Harry's assets will not be affected. However, Manson has some complaints about this. He thinks that since it's a blockbuster, it's necessary to come up with the price that blockbusters should pay. If the ticket price is low, people will think that the film quality is also low. So taking advantage of today's opportunity, Manson raised the matter again. What price do you think is suitable to raise it to? Harry asked. According to our quality, we have to raise another $3. Harry just shook his head with a smile. Needless to say, since the tickets were all set, we don't need to raise them anymore. Harry refused. Boss, you're not thinking about it? Director Manson, it's wrong for you to only care about the box office revenue. Although the ticket price has increased, we can make a lot more money, but have you ever thought about the audience's reaction? Manson shook his head. No cinema owners will also consider their own interest. How can this kind of thing be exposed? Harry said with a smile. It's hard to say. Although I trust Harvey, there are always some factors that can be well controlled in Sean's cinema. Manson hesitated. Well, then the price will not rise. Harry nodded and said, Of course not. I'll tell you. It didn't matter to earn less. It's a blessing to suffer losses. Do you know that money couldn't earn all that time? But once our image stinks, we couldn't return it over in our life. Well, boss, you've convinced me that the price will remain unchanged. Manson finally agreed not to adjust the price. Just after finishing this topic, Manson's mobile phone suddenly rang and a message came. Manson took a look, immediately changed his face, and even ignored the image in front of Harry. He slapped the table hard. What's the matter? Harry asked. Manson then remembered that he was talking to his boss about something, but he was so rude that cold sweat came down on his forehead. Boss, I'm sorry, I'm impolite, Manson whispered. It's okay. Tell me what happened to you just now. How did you get so angry? Harry asked. With that, Manson immediately became angry and bowed to Harry, saying, Boss, his holiday is sabotaging us. Manson said angrily, I don't know what happened to Sean's cinema. The schedule of Kiss Holiday's film overlaps with us. Just now, Manson received a message from his assistant saying that the movie called Sky Castle, made by Kiss Holiday, had collided with the schedule of Doomsday Legends. Although Manson had enough confidence in his own movie, he didn't think Kiss Holiday could make a good movie. Harry said, Since the schedule has run into each other, we'll just show them together. Who can earn more in the box office? It's good to have a little competition. But before Manson finished, Harry's phone rang. Look, Harvey is calling, Harry said with a smile. Then he motioned to Manson not to make a sound, so he picked up the phone. Do you want to talk about the movie when you come to me? Harvey was very sorry and said, Harry, I don't know how to tell you. Kiss Holiday's movie has been collided with your schedule. In fact, I just came to know about it. Harry said he understood. It's okay. Harry, please don't be angry. I'll solve this problem for you and withdraw Kiss Holiday's movie. Harvey was very loyal. No, never. Harry quickly stopped. Why? Harvey was a little confused. Harry explained, First of all, you don't have to worry that I will get angry. Besides, there's no need to stop anyone's movie. If you will use power to suppress Kiss Holiday, it'll look like that I'm incompetent. But, I don't worry about competitors, Harry comforted. Harry, I was unaware that my employees have signed a contract with Kiss Holiday for her movie, Harvey explained. In fact, Harry understands that the scale of Harvey's theater is too large, and Harvey, as a master, couldn't do everything. Harry understood that there must be thousands of middle and senior managers below him. It's impossible to keep track of the deals made by them. So it's no surprise that Kiss Holiday's film can be signed. Now, with Kiss Holiday, the blockbuster released at the same time, it was just in line with Harry's plan. As for whether Kiss Holiday's film will take away Harry's box office, this was certain, but Harry didn't matter. His wealth does not depend on the box office. Making movies is just as temporary pleasure for him. Therefore, it's not important for Harvey and Manson to be angry when they come to Harry. Well, Harry, I hope your movie does better than hers, Harvey said with a smile. Harry said, It's actually a good thing. There is no competitors in this province. Harry laughs and ends the call with Harvey. In another city, Kiss Holiday was drinking and celebrating with her subordinates. Kiss Holiday, we're really surprised to be able to sign a contract with Harvey's Cinema this time. Yeah, Kiss Holiday has a lot of contacts. The biggest cinema in the country has been won so smoothly, and the share is good for us, another man flattered. That's right. I'm one of the top filmmakers in the entertainment industry. Everyone wants to sign movie deals with me, Kiss Holiday said complacently. At the beginning, Kiss Holiday was also worried. She knows that the relationship between Harry and Harvey, the young owner of his cinemas, they're like brothers. If they want to have a good box office, they couldn't get around it. Box office of a movie and its profit depends on whether it can cooperate with Sean. A lot of people gathered at Kiss Holiday's party, and some were there to give her some words of wisdom. Kiss Holiday, I've seen the trailer of Doomsday Legend. The special effects in it are pretty explosive, and the star lineup is also very strong. Now the schedule is bumping all together. I'm afraid the box office competition can harm your movie. What do you mean by the opponent's strong star lineup? We have Kiss Holiday in our movie. One Kiss Holiday is more than enough for all the opponents. There were still people who were flattering her. Well. Kiss Holiday was very flattered by her subordinates and was very comfortable.